It's time for MacBreak Weekly. This is a very special episode. Well, for one thing, we're recording on a Wednesday. Google I.O. was yesterday, so we flip-flop with Twig. But that's very convenient because Jason Snell is here with his brand new 13-inch iPad Pro, the brand new keyboard, the brand new pencil. Mikah Sargent's got his 11-inch. He's going to unbox that. iPad, 11-inch iPad. What did you think I said? And then it's going to be me and Andy looking on and wishing we had such nice gear. So your iPad Pro reviews coming up, plus all the Apple news. It's a special MacBreak Weekly in studio edition.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 921, recorded Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, the Vision Division. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. Of course, all the news was a week ago when Apple announced the iPad Pro. We've delayed our show a day, well, for a couple of reasons. One, because Google I.O. was yesterday, so we took Twig's place. We slotted Twig over onto our show slot on Tuesday, and we're now doing MacBreak Weekly on a Wednesday, but that means we can have some iPad Pros. Jason Snell is here. The embargo lifted yesterday.
No, Monday afternoon.
And so you had this
for a fun weekend.
You had this. Sorry,
I got this Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually in New York last week when you did the show because I was at their little dog and pony show.
Is that
in
where
Tribeca.
the briefings were?
London and New York. Those were the choices.
You couldn't go to Cupertino.
No. So
half an hour away
so I
from
went
your
to New
house.
York, and then and got the iPad Wednesday.
Nice. Well, we will get your thoughts. Andy Anako and I are going to be sitting drooling from a distance. Andy, it looks like, is at the library again. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. Yeah, it's now that the weather's kind of nicer. It's like I need excuses to get out of the office.
Looks pretty.
So, and
what a backdrop.
And I reminded myself what a lovely library we have nearby. And it's like, oh, okay. So,
I love the view.
I find myself wanting to read that text.
It's kind of small. If you can read it, you're too close. And that is
The large.
Mr. Mikah Sargent.
Hello.
We made him work today, even though he worked
I'm happy to
yesterday
be
and he's
here.
working Sunday and tomorrow.
It's weird. It's like it's a job or something.
Like it was a job.
Yeah.
You ordered the 11-inch.
I did order the 11-inch
Has
iPad
it come
Pro.
yet?
It is here, and I have left it in the box so we can do a live unboxing.
Why don't we do an unboxing?
The internet loves it when people take things out of boxes.
That's the strangest thing. Do we still love that? Is that still?
I don't know.
We're going to do it
I think
anyway.
the ASMR people still do.
Well,
Just
it'll
kind of
provide
whispers
for
you're
those
doing.
enjoying the video version. Okay. It'll provide interesting video for our discussion of the iPad Pro.
Yeah, I think we're just going to watch him as we talk.
Yeah, you talk. I'll unbox.
So that's the keyboard.
And this is what's interesting. Let me do the keyboard first, and then
Okay.
I'll explain what's interesting. So this has that standard. By the way, if you're noticing, I'm getting used to some stuff that's in my mouth.
Did you get braces? You got Invisalign, huh?
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
So
Good
it'll
man.
take some time, but then I will not sound as
No
weird
more
as I do today.
buck-toothed Charlie, huh?
Exactly.
No, you had great teeth.
Thank you.
Some
Just wanted to fix some
orthodontist
crowding,
convinced you that you someday would regret not doing it now.
You know, my great grandpa, who had no teeth by the time he passed away.
His name was Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury, who had no teeth by the time he passed away, who I was told part of the reason why he went
no
when
teeth?
he did was because he wasn't eating greens and other roughage. So, just trying to make sure they're all where they need to be. Anyway, there's that distraction, and now you all are listening even closer to how I sound. This is great. So anyway, what we're going to do is unbox this. And this is what I was saying. This is Apple's standard packaging. I was prepared for this. I can pull the tab.
Yep.
And I can get right into.
Yep. And then you got a box within a box.
A box within a box.
But that's good. I hate
It's
it
almost
when...
all paper now.
Yes. And in fact, we don't have any plastic shrink wrap over the top. We've got some more pull tabs. So we
That's
can
a good
pull the
thing.
tabs
They're
there.
very environmentally conscious these days.
Mother
this
Nature.
This is the new keyboard that is mostly metal, it looks like.
Well, it's still got the rubber outside, but the interior, it's got that aluminum piece on it, and so the keyboard is much more like using a MacBook Air.
Function keys and haptic feedback.
And the 13-inch Pro, I got on my kitchen scale last week. The 13-inch Pro with the smart keyboard or the Magic Keyboard on it is within 20 grams of the MacBook Air in weight.
Oh, isn't that
Really?
interesting?
So it will give you and then the 11 is going to be even lighter.
And yeah, there's no click to this because it's haptic.
Yeah,
so once it gets powered, then it will do a click.
Yep.
It is okay. I see what you're saying. It's rubbery on the outside.
Yeah, it's a little darker. The black is not really black, but it's a darker gray than the old one. If you've got like Leo's, I'm pretty sure it's a little bit darker. But
well, I
not
can
a lot
tell you
darker.
that's actually why I brought this in. Partly to say goodbye to the old. This is an M1. This is 2 generations ago.
That's the one I have at home.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see a reason to upgrade. I still don't, frankly. So there's the color gray.
Oh yeah, you're right. It is a little bit darker.
A little bit
This
darker.
is the,
And
this is
then-
the
And then the rubber outside, I think, is a little bit darker too. But
yeah, this is lighter.
it's because they went from
I
space
like
gray to
black
space
better.
black.
I like black
It's nicer.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not want to go with the other one. I do love that it has a function row now. That's awesome.
Huge.
I think that does
This
make
really
it.
makes it a laptop ergonomically.
Yeah, I mean,
think.
adding the haptic trackpad and adding the function row really makes it feel even more.
like an
And
air.
like I said, and the weight. I've been using this for the last 6 days, and as my primary for almost everything instead of a Mac. And it has, and I have an M2 MacBook Air at home, right? So it's very similar, right? The keyboard's similar, the trackpad's similar, the weight is similar, the OS is totally different, but like in a lot of ways ergonomically, it's basically a laptop when it's in this, and then of course you pop it off and it's not anymore.
Now here's something that surprised me. I'm going to open up this box, which is kind of
John's
larger.
here with his boxes.
Let's show John's because John's this is the iPad and this is the Apple Pencil.
And you got the 13
got
inch.
two boxes, right?
Yeah.
And look, it's got that standard Apple wrapper with
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
pull
yeah.
tab, and same thing here. Now
This is not what yours looked like. at
mine came
all.
in one box, right? And check this
Ah.
out. This seems very un-Apple-y to me.
It's got wrap. Oh,
It's just got
it's got craft paper.
Well,
in there.
And
they're
look-
not going to use plastic bubble wrap
the
anymore.
iPad's just
Right.
in there moving around.
That is odd.
I just thought I was going to come in one of these nice little.
Mine is, as far as I can tell, 3 separate shipments. So you just
I don't know what
somehow
happened.
you got maybe this is the.
Oh, there you go. It's maybe the Apple Pencil is a package material.
Yeah, exactly. They're using that as stuffing.
Peanuts.
It's a multitasker.
So
How flexible are these tools that Apple makes? God bless them.
let's do this next. So we've got the nice pull tab on the back again. We can pull and peel. I did not get anything engraved.
I did. Do you remember that my last pencil, which I have right here, says "Dream Boy"? Do you remember that?
No,
Maybe it wasn't you.
it wasn't
that talked
me
me.
because that's funny.
Yeah, Dream Boy.
Seems like something Christina Warren would.
I
have you
think
do.
maybe Megan told me to get Dream Boy.
Interesting.
Dream, comma boy. See, that makes all the
You know,
difference.
isn't
No,
it nice
yeah.
that Apple allows you to etch things on your Apple devices for free? They do that so you can't resell them.
But
That's-
you can return them, which is interesting. They have a de-etching apparently.
Nice.
This really isn't etched. It's just
A
kind of-
Dremel.
So you didn't get anything. You didn't get any personalization.
Yeah, I did. It says Pencil Pro.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very
I am
personal.
also a Pencil Pro. I chose that as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Pencil buddies.
Woo! I will probably put a not D brand. I don't like.
You're gonna
D-brand,
put a
but
skin on all of
slick
this?
wrap skin on there.
Huh. What are you going to do? What kind?
I will probably get one to match.
Because you got a vintage Macintosh, like an LC or something.
Yeah,
On
and I
your
like the little
MacBook.
vents on
Oh,
the
yeah.
side.
That's hysterical.
So I'll probably get something to match that. All right,
Nice
let's
Apple
get to the
IIe.
big thing and hope that it's in here since it came in that weird.
By the way,
box.
I didn't know this, but if you look at it, it says Pro.
Here, let me do it that way. There we go.
I don't like that art at all.
P-
I think it's
terrible.
I think it's a huge mistake.
R. Oh.
Once you see Pro, it looks horrible.
I get
from then on.
supplied imagery from Apple, and I try to use it because they take better pictures than me. But boy, I couldn't use anything with those images on it.
What do you
I
think
just
this
it's
is
Really ugly.
It's like representing
I don't know.
Liquid metal.
liquid metal. You think?
The Terminator 2.
It's a system of tubes.
Abyss. It's the Abyss.
All right, here we go.
Come
And
to see
Ellen,
you.
by the way, look at me with my measly 512 gigabyte iPad.
Which means, because
is
it's
this?
512, the two lower storage configurations,
Jammer B.
we think of them as storage configurations, but they're not
But they're
storage
not.
anymore. They're storage and memory
And bin chip.
and CPU.
Yeah.
It's
And-
all included.
Yeah, because you get you lose
So-
one performance core, and you and
Double the memory. Double the RAM.
That's why they put it in that box.
and only 8
so
gigs
that
of RAM
the-
instead of 16.
The performance core came out in shipping. It
Yeah.
just fell out.
So John, before he knew that, bought a 512 gig Pro, and then he was going to return it, and he's decided not to because everybody told him, you'll never see the difference.
It's probably true, but people who know that they need them to maximize, especially RAM. Honestly, I think the RAM matters more than anything else because
16 gigs versus
it means
8
you
gigs.
can keep so much more. It means that your Safari tabs are not going to refresh. It means you're not going to open that app thinking it's going to spring back to life and
Keep
discover that it has to reload.
Unboxing while Jason's
all of those things are are possible with more RAM.
If you're going to keep this for 4, 5, 6 years, that means that features that you might get sorted out of in the next 3, 4, 5 versions of iOS, that means you'll be able to actually access them.
And a lot of those AI features are RAM hungry, forthcoming AI features. So having 16 gigs of RAM is not a bad idea. If you can afford it.
On-device
beast to my old. God, I really want to get rid of that.
That's the 11, right? But yeah.
Yeah, this isn't even as thin as it can get.
So Jason made an interesting point because Apple touted this 5.1 millimeter thick iPad Pro as the thinnest product they've ever made. That's not true.
Well, I think of a product, right? Sure, the Apple Card. I think it is thinner. I think it's thinner than my Apple TV remote.
Is it thinner than the remote?
I think it is. That was pretty chunky. Maybe the old Apple TV, the old Siri remote.
Jason, you've had this for a while.
Yeah.
How is this OLED screen? How does it look?
I think it's really good. I saw somebody who said they watched something on Netflix. I forget what site that was, and that they felt it did some weird things. That sounded like a software decoding of HDR problem to me. But I've looked at it and it's gorgeous, and it doesn't do. I'm coming from the 12.9, which itself was, well, if we're going to check thickness, we got to try it over here.
Yeah, it's slightly thicker even than this one.
The 12.9. Oh yeah, okay. So this is thicker too. Yeah, it is. So
my God, we're testing but that's an old Apple remote.
Yeah, I think that's thinner than the new one. The new one's chunkier than that.
Well, so it is the thinnest product they've ever made.
The old 12.9 inch iPad Pro had the mini LED backlighting. So it was the best iPad Pro screen. It was just on the large model.
And full array local dimming. They had thousands.
There were about 2,500, I think, local
LEDs.
dimming zones. But 2,500 local dimming zones is not every single pixel like an OLED.
But on a screen that size, it's good.
It's pretty good. But people could see blooming, and I absolutely could. And in sci-fi stuff where you've got space fields, and you end up with a little rectangle of the starship that's moving along through the blackness. So that's all gone.
Just to explain, up to now, they've been LCDs, which have backlights. They might say LED, but they're really LED backlights of an LCD screen. These OLED screens are direct view. They're emissive pixels. And so there's no local dimming because it's all pixel by pixel.
Exactly. Or I guess dual pixel by dual pixel, since this is the Tandem OLED.
That's actually, I saw a great YouTube video, which I'll point people to, that explained that Tandem is not something Apple made up. I thought it was.
Is that Quinn Nelson's?
Quinn did a great job on explaining this is a standard within OLEDs to make them brighter. Mm-hmm. There are potential issues because of the gap between the two screens. There's potential refraction going on inside. Apple has made them pretty close, and I think that you're not seeing that, right?
I'm not seeing that. In fact, I think, Quinn's point was that this is a thing that's been known, but it's hard to do. And Apple, it sounds very Apple, right? Apple's like, no, we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll engineer that one.
But that's how you get 1,000 nits peak brightness.
Yeah, well, and what is it, 1,600, 1,400?
For HDR.
So it is, and in fact, they've tweaked some things in the UI. I have noticed that every now and then, it's a little more high dynamic range than it used to be, where there'll be an item that'll be sort of in the foreground in Stage Manager, and it'll be lit up a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I see what you're doing there. You're taking advantage of that extra dynamic range you've got on the Tandem OLED.
This is the Snazzy Labs video. What nobody else told you about Tandem OLED and M4. And this is really the Tandem. The other thing we were talking about, of course, is that the two different M4s, the breakpoint is 1 terabyte storage, and then you'll get all 4. Is that right? 4 efficiency cores?
4 performance cores.
4 performance cores.
There are 6 efficiency cores. This is one of the big things. So this will be in all of our Macs over the next year, but the M4 has 2 more CPU cores than the M3 did, and they're both efficiency cores, which are not weak cores. They're pretty powerful, but they are not the full speed. They're designed to sip the power from your battery-operated devices. So they've got 6 of those now, and then there are 4. But if you're using the binned model, the 2 lower end models, you only get 3 of the super high test fast cores.
So that's the big difference.
And then 10 GPU cores on all
of them. In fact, the GPU of the M4 even Apple says is basically the same as the GPU on the M3.
Right, which on the iPad, they never got the M3, so they didn't get all of the things that they added in the M3, all of the dynamic hardware, sort of ray tracing and shading and things that are there that weren't there before. Right. The CPU also sounds like it is a mild update from the M3. Look, I mean, I'm sure you talked about it last week. A lot of what is happening here is happening because they changed their chip process at Taiwan Semiconductor, which makes the chips for Apple, and so they had to make a new chip in order to get off of the one process that they did for one generation. So but Apple, when they do new chips these days, they update parts of it and leave other parts alone. So like you might have a generation where the GPU is basically the same, but the CPU is updated. And so in this, they added cores, and what they told me that I think is interesting is even though they've got the neural engine on there, and even though there's also a lot of AI stuff that runs on GPUs, there is some AI stuff that is lightweight enough that it's not worth farming it out. You just want to run it on the CPU and get it over with. And so they added the one big addition to the CPU cores in M4 is this ability to run AI tasks more efficiently on CPU. So they found a way, like in the spectrum of AI tasks, there were some that were simple enough that there was no point in using the neural engine or the GPU. They just needed to be more efficiently run on CPU, and they made that tweak. But it's small stuff, but it's still, I did the test, this is still another generational, 15% speed increase over M3.
That's noticeable.
Yeah.
And there's another reason for this. The new node is cheaper. So yes. Apple can get these chips in greater quantity at a lower price.
Cheaper, more efficient.
Yeah.
The reports said that Taiwan Semiconductor was basically eating the cost of every failed chip on the old process. And that's why they said, hey, everybody, new process.
Right.
We're not doing this anymore.
Guess
exactly
what?
Right.
Which is why you're seeing a binned chip in the iPad, because now Apple's eating the cost.
They're taking the flawed chips and they can use
them.
They
don't want to throw them out.
For a lower cost, but they can take them and reuse them.
So it sounds like, and this seems to be the consensus, that they're not going to make any more M3 devices at all.
I think it's over. Yeah, I think
Isn't
they want to
wild?
I think they want to get off of it as soon as possible. It actually makes sense why Mark Gurman reported that everything would be turning over to M4 and sooner than you might think.
Like this year,
is that they are going to try to get everything off of the old 3 nanometer process that was a dead end, because they thought when they did that, TSMC thought that was going to be the future, and then as they started to put it into practice, they realized, we can't do this. It's not tenable. We need a new system. And that was they had to probably go to Apple and have a really awkward conversation saying, I know you're our best customer and you bought all of our stock of this thing, but this one's not going to work. We need you to quickly redesign, because you can't just port it to the new process. It had to be a complete redesign for the new process, because it's that different. And so clearly TSMC went to Apple and was like, yeah, that M4, bring it on fast. We need to get you on our new process. So here we are.
We were on they're all 3 nanometer processes, but we were on the N3B as in boy. Then this is now N3E, reduced
Seems
cost.
Like, yeah.
There will be another one, the N3P as in Paul. That'll be later this year.
But my understanding is that evolves from this new
shrink.
process.
Yeah.
Whereas the old process, you couldn't just move it along. You had to redesign your whole chip to get off of that process, which is why like the iPhones that come out this fall will have a new chip that'll be based on this process. That old process, everything that's got an M3 in it will be gone.
You're telling me I bought a Celeron basically when I bought my M3 Max.
No, you bought a collector's item, Leo. What are you talking about? It's the first consumer grade 3 nanometer process, never to be seen again.
Bye-bye. Here's from an OnTech a year ago, the roadmap, and I don't think it's changed that much. You see the power improvement is pretty good on all of these, and performance improvement is, it's not huge, but it's something. Yeah. And so that's what we're going to see.
I think the power changes and the fact that they added a new display controller on the chip are the two things that enable the iPad Pro to exist. They said the display controller was necessary for them to do the Tandem OLED.
Yeah.
But also, one of the ways they got these things to be thinner, and I think more importantly lighter, is that they got to reduce the battery in them, because the chip is so much more efficient.
And the screen. OLEDs are more efficient than LCDs.
And the screen, absolutely. So and you can see Apple, since the iPad was announced the first time, has always said 10 hours of battery life. Like for Apple, that is the ideal of battery life on the iPad. So when they were able to do this, their immediate thought is not great. We can go to 20 hours of battery life. Their immediate thought was, let's get a lot of battery out there so that it's lighter. And that's why it's lighter.
You are updating, Mikah?
Yeah, it had to do the update at first. I did want to mention
that's a bummer.
John and I both got the Apple Pencil Pro. I didn't know they were doing different artwork for the boxes.
Yeah.
So we've got Pro written in orange and then Pro written in this purple and pink color.
Yeah. Collect all 12.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is why they make all the money.
Strangely, he also customized his as Pencil Pro. I'll stop making that joke.
Mine says Leo. Here from Old Geezer in our Discord.
Wow.
Is on the left is the new iPad Pro. On the right is the Apple remote.
Not your remote.
It is, in fact, the thinnest device we've ever made, except for the Apple Card.
I enjoy that Apple got out in front of the future bend gate and did an interview where they specifically talked about their rigor in building a substructure for this thing so that it won't bend. I mean, anything will bend if you try hard enough, but like that they were well aware that this is very thin and very wide, and that they built a structure to support that.
Jerry bends everything.
Somebody will bend it. Also, I love that they talked about the fact that they stuffed a lot of like graphite layers in there, and the copper on the Apple logo in order to radiate more heat and keep it running. Yeah.
Can you see it? Does it look different, the logo?
No.
The frame that helps to provide rigidity is also the heat sink structure as well.
Cool.
And so it kind of takes from the center and takes it out to the sides, which is cool.
Is this the best screen Apple's ever made, or it's basically Mac Studio?
I feel like it is because it's OLED that puts it up.
They don't have any other OLED
the MacBook
screens.
Pro. Yeah, the Mac. Well, on the iPhone they do, but like the MacBook Pro screen is really gorgeous. But this is next level because of the brightness. It's better than the ones that you'll see on iPhones even for now until the fall probably.
Here from who is this from? Mac Rumors. Is the 5 different boxes there for pencil. So we've got 2 of them here.
Someone trade me this one for that
There's
blue
a calligraphy one.
I think I've got the blue one.
Oh, the blue one's
You
so
got the blue
cool.
one? Well, it's my hope that I will get whatever the heck that black thing is in there.
So while we're talking about the pencil, I'll mention they added, so we know about barrel roll, right? They also added that squeeze feature. I really like the haptics. The haptics on this are I mean, they say that it's up in the barrel, but it's like with the trackpad, it is this illusion where your brain it feels like you're squeezing the pencil and something's happening, but it's really just vibrating a little bit.
Awesome.
And it comes with some basic things. If you use Pencil Kit, so any drawing app will pick up all sorts of things, including, I think, the best undo that I've ever seen on iPad OS, where it's a radial undo. You select undo, and then you can actually sort of like dial and watch everything get undone or redone until you find the right point. Very clever. But it's also third parties.
Paper, wasn't it?
Yeah, and third party apps can support it fairly easily too. So I got a beta of an app that I use that he hadn't actually even seen it yet, but he built the API in and said, "Jason, try this out." And
See if it works.
It totally works.
Nice.
And that was really awesome. And then in accessibility, you can also have it do things like just toggle to the eraser. If that's all you want to do, you can just toggle to the eraser. Or, and I love this one. This is great. The squeeze gesture can also just run a shortcut. So get ready for that. So you may not even need a pencil for anything else. It's just your action button. You just hold it up and squeeze it and see what happens.
So you're getting 17.5. Actually, you already got it. That was pretty quick.
Yeah,
that's the update we all got in the last couple of days.
Yeah, the build that I've got is slightly older than that. So I'm going to have to run an update too. I'm running a 17.5, but it's like a previous build. It's the reviewer build.
Editorial build.
It's the secret build.
The one where everything
build.
runs fast.
Actually, I talked to somebody at Apple. I'm like, this seems weird. And they're like, yeah, that's fixed in the final shipping update. Just wait a couple days.
Oh, interesting. So there are a couple of bugs in that first.
It's just a pre-build for reviewers.
It was kind of a beta.
Yeah, essentially.
Micah, can you see a difference between your old 11-inch?
In the screen? Excuse me. In the screen? Yes, absolutely. Now, it is...
Are you going to back up from backup, or are you going to start fresh?
Well, I will eventually, when I am home with this thing, I will back up from a backup. Or I will use...
restore from a backup.
Restore from a backup, exactly.
But for this purpose, you're just kind of blasting
we just
through
want to
so you get
through
it.
Exactly.
Yeah, the contrast
How's that
from the
keyboard
11
feel?
will be
It looks
great.
I have to say, the 11-inch is so cute.
It is.
I'm kind of jealous.
I'm a typing snob, okay? So I typed on it and I thought, it's a little cramped. I don't think so. But then I closed it and like
Carrying
held it like a
around.
laptop, and I'm like, oh, it's so tiny. Like that's what it's really got going for it. It is tinier than any laptop Apple currently makes, right? Because they don't make an
Remember
11-inch MacBook Air anymore.
The little MacBook Air, what size was that?
That was
Dan
11.
Moore.
Yeah.
The 11.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved that little thing. I love that.
Dan and I both use
did
it. Yeah, so this has got strong 11-inch iPad or MacBook Air vibes about it, but the keys are a little cramped, but
Yeah.
it's still pretty nice.
I'm now thinking maybe I should get the 11-inch instead.
I don't know. You got 11 to the left and
What's
13 to the
interesting
right.
is this is really a laptop. This is a MacBook Air.
It is. Other than the
different
OS,
operating
it is
system.
functionally everything else. The hardware, the weight, the keyboard. It's pretty much a MacBook Air.
Yeah, I have a MacBook Air, but this is
tiny.
And Andy, you and I love our iPad Minis. We hope they'll be updated later this year. This is kind of a mini iPad Pro. It's kind of an interesting size. That's why you wanted to go 11.
That's why I wanted it. Yeah, because
It wasn't just because you want to be different from me.
No, well, that too. It helps.
Let me see. Let me feel it.
What I love, the reason why this MacBook Air is my favorite Mac that I've ever owned is because
like
it
the
is small and
size.
portable and still very powerful. But I can always go to my studio to the Mac Studio if I want to do more. Wow, studio is a hard word to say right now.
Studio.
Oh, I should just start talking like Connery. Then you will never know that there's something.
Oh,
in my
now
mouth. But yeah, isn't this nice? It's just a little.
nice
It's just a little
size.
guy.
It's a little guy,
It's just a little guy.
and that's a big guy.
Yeah.
You got a big-
Andy, any temptation from you for something like an 11-inch Air or Pro?
Probably not. Because I'm more the things I would use an 11-inch for, I would much rather use a mini for.
It's a mini,
Like I won't rehash what I said last week, but it's like if I have room for a real computing device, I'm carrying a laptop bag or a satchel. What I really want is something that's really tiny enough that I don't have to take anything that's like a laptop bag at all. It's the sort of thing where I'm just packing a bag to carry a bottle of water, a spare jacket, a charger for my phone, whatever paperback I'm reading, and I've got room for an iPad that runs the latest operating system and maybe a Bluetooth keyboard. Why don't I take those along with me?
It is iPad Pro Day on MacBreak Weekly. I'm glad we moved to Wednesday. It worked out pretty well. Jason Snell is here. He's got his 13-inch. It's really just 12.9, right? They just call it 13?
It is slightly larger, but basically they've decided to round everything up.
Just round it up. Why shouldn't?
They should have done it years ago.
So he's got his 13-inch MacBook Pro M4 edition.
iPad Pro.
I'm sorry, iPad Pro. And you put in, this is an Apple loaner.
This
is this
the
2
review
terabyte?
unit. This is one.
One. Okay, so that's 1 terabyte, 16 gigs of RAM, and four
and all four performance cores to go with the 6. I mean, 10. Think about the context of a 10-core CPU.
I know.
And a 10-core GPU.
I know.
In
a tablet.
This little thing, yeah.
Let me feel how it does. Oh, it's funny because it's 1.25 pounds, but because it's so thin, it feels like it's lighter. Doesn't it?
It spreads it over the range.
It's beautiful. Wow, the screen is noticeably better.
The screen is really good.
Noticeably better. We also have Mikah Sargent in house. He has the 11-inch iPad Pro, and you got 1 terabyte.
I have 512 gigabytes.
Oh, you decided to go with the somewhat
because I got it
version.
before I knew that it was diminished.
You could return it. It's not too late. You could.
Yeah, I just wanted to have it on day one. Or
you could take mine and I could give you. I give you mine.
He wants the 11
I want the little tiny boy. It's so cute.
It's so cute. Look at it.
So you have the 8 gigs of RAM and the 3 performance cores. There is a 4th performance core in there, but it's got a big X on it on its eyes. It's
over its eyes, exactly. It's just sitting there.
And that's what we call a binned chip. And this is in chip manufacturers going on for years. That's where the Celeron came from, is companies would make chips. They wouldn't all be fully functional. Some would operate at lower speeds and at lower voltages. Some parts might be missing. And they would have bins that the testers would go, this one goes in this bin, this one goes in this bin, this one goes in this bin. Binning chips is a little bit new to the Apple world. I think it's brand new to the iPad world. I don't think they've ever binned before. But that just shows you that these are the same chips, but they're not as fully functional because they can't be. That's all. They just can't. And Andy Anako and I are sitting here empty-handed.
But full
of lust.
Well,
No,
I'll simply say that I've got my M1 iPad Pro acting as a second screen for my MacBook here. An investment in a MacBook is a good long-term investment for
Yes, I agree. And honestly, if I didn't want to try the new stuff and review it for the shows, if I weren't covering the subject, I probably wouldn't upgrade my M1 iPad Pro.
Still pretty good.
Yeah. We'll have more in just a little bit with our panel of experts. You're watching a special Wednesday edition of MacBreak Weekly. Today's show brought to you by Melissa. We've talked about them before. They're the data quality experts. If you've got a customer list, it's decaying right before your very eyes. In fact, as much as a third in every year. But that means it's going to cost you money because you're going to be sending mailers to the wrong people. You're not going to be, you might have duplicates in there. Melissa fixes all of that. Melissa's truly global. Their global address verification and validation service verifies addresses for 240 plus countries and territories. I didn't even know there were that many. And that means Melissa saves you money. They improve deliverability. They reduce costly errors. They boost your address data accuracy, increase delivery speed. They boost your ROI in a whole bunch of ways. In fact, the return on investment is one of the things that Melissa takes very seriously. That's why they offer free trials and sample codes and flexible pricing. They're a business like you, and they understand you have to maximize the value. You can also be reassured that your data is in very good hands. Melissa has achieved the highest level of security status by gaining FedRAMP authorization. You don't get any better than that. Now, FedRAMP is for governmental agencies. Good news if you're a governmental agency, but everybody who uses Melissa automatically gains that superior level of security. You'll be glad to know Melissa's solutions and services are also GDPR, CCPA compliant. They meet SOC 2 and HIPAA high trust standards for information security management. I mean, the bottom line on that is your data is in very, very good hands. You can try Melissa in a variety of ways, on-prem, SaaS, API. You can even try their free Melissa Lookups apps. They're available, again, free on iOS and Android. You don't even have to sign up, but it's a great way to kind of see what Melissa can do. Validate addresses and personal identities in the U.S. or Canada. It does even more. You can check global phone numbers, global IP address information, and more. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free at melissa.com/twit. That's melissa.com/twit. We thank Melissa so much for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Jason, you told me before the show began, I don't know if I'm
secrets
breaking confidentiality.
Here. Oh, boy.
We were talking about the nano texture screen. Can you say what you told me?
Yeah. I got the strong impression from people at Apple last week when I was talking to them that the way that they have said the nano texture screen is basically, if you need it, and otherwise you don't need it. Because I see a lot of people sort of like, but anti-glare. It's like the way they put it to me is, if you're out in the field, if you're like a pro,
right,
like a cinematographer or a photographer, and you're outdoors doing a lot of work where you really need to see details and you can't because you're swamped by the sunlight. Yeah, that's what that nano texture is for. But if you're just like, hey, sometimes there's a light bulb near me and it glares and I don't like it, don't buy it, because you're going to spend more money and you're going to lose, because of the diffusion that happens when they treat that glass.
Ding, ding, ding.
You are going to lose some of the blackness and some of the brightness, and because the light is all going to scatter. So, like, unless you really need it, don't do it. And I would argue, if you're really worried about it, the beautiful thing is you can get it without, and then you can add a Paperlike or some other kind of screen protector if it really comes to that. But like, I thought that was interesting, where they did not try to oversell it. They were like, no. This is really professionals gave us feedback that they wanted it better, even if it impacted the quality of the display a little bit.
I have to say, and I don't know if this helps that, but the off-axis viewing on your OLED is spectacular. I'm almost 90 degrees off-axis.
When you picked it up and held it, I could see just how amazing it is.
So that if privacy is an issue, maybe you do want the nanotexture. I don't know, or a privacy filter.
Yeah, probably.
If you're on an airplane with somebody, they can easily see what you're doing.
Yeah, it's
Just look over and they're watching the movie with
field
you.
of view.
Is it the same? I think it's not as good for the LCD. No, I don't think it is.
No.
That's remarkable. I would say the color is every bit as good from the side as it is from the front.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a tandem OLED thing or
it's a good display.
It's not true of all OLEDs. We have this just in a picture. Burke has obtained a micrograph of the special 3 performance core version of the M4
It's
chip.
even got a little tongue.
The X's on the eyes mean it's dead.
It's dead, GM. Okay. Okay. Don't rub this in. Poor Micah. He's already said
I can see it.
I can see it.
Look, it's right
So
there.
you've been
I don't
using the,
think it's dead. I just think it's drunk. I think everyone's trying to cover up for his disability, for his,
That's right.
We shouldn't be enabling these CPUs. I'm telling you.
I agree. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jim.
Sure, you betcha.
Core number 4 thinks it's a functional alcoholic, but it is not.
So
all the performance cores, all the CPU cores are. We've created this die of love and support to let you know that
a little intervention for CPU 4.
Yep.
So
you're playing with the what is it? Pencil 3? Is that what we call
Apple
it?
Pencil
Is that
Pro.
all it is? Apple Pencil Pro.
So a couple of things. First and foremost, this is my first time using Apple Pencil Hover. I have not had an iPad that has Hover, and I think it's actually kind of cool.
Nice.
It caught me off guard at first, but the bigger
because you're not touching the screen, but something pops up.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone. I'm sure people have picked up on this. There's a shadow that appears behind the pencil to let you know.
Oh, look at that. I can see it.
Do you see that moving?
That's digital?
That's digital
Holy
shadow.
camole.
So that way you know how you're holding your pencil on the screen.
I know that seems like a little thing,
but
somebody put some time and effort into making that work.
Especially for the calligraphy options.
Yeah, the barrel roll really does make the hover make more sense because you need the preview to see what angle you're holding the pencil. Although I've also seen like there was some, I don't know whether it's Procreate, where they put a like a spin filter on the barrel roll so that you could actually like put it down and then spin it to do
a knob,
to do like a twirl.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I remember that.
Right, so you can actually like sort of move it and slide it and watch as it does a twirl.
I can't wait to see. We can't wait to see what you do with it. I love seeing how developers make use of this. I already have been reading the developer documentation for the updates to PencilKit, and Apple is giving a lot of control to developers with PencilKit with the new Pencil Pro. So I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of interesting interactions that you might not expect when it comes to this, like being able to use that barrel roll to actually change what is not the Z axis, but Y rotation.
The width of the brush. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can have a non-circular brush.
You're more like me as an artist.
I'm just
Micah.
Micah's drawing something. I'm just making junk on a page.
And I don't know why I buy these pencils every time. They seem so cool, but I'm not an artist.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're using. I found out that Fair Art Recording Studio, the podcast editing app, is great. It's great to edit audio using a pencil, right? But
I've seen some touch targets that are a little small for me to hit, even in just the native iPad OS, that a pencil helps with a little bit. I can't get over how good the off-axis is on that OLED.
You're just seeing everything he sees.
It's gorgeous. Even at 90 degrees, it's amazing.
My little Hobbiton photo is beautiful there.
Yeah. What else? Anything you notice? You're trying Scribble?
Well, so I put the pencil on the top, and now it's making me go through. Oh, that's right. Apple Pencil now has Find My. You know what? Let's do it.
Okay, John, take his pencil and hide it.
Let me.
Okay. Oh, John Ashley is running down, and he's going to take that. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Don't look. John is now hiding Micah's Apple Pencil. Round and round she goes. Okay, you can look now.
Now I'll open up Find My.
Okay.
Oh, don't show this yet, because it's got all sorts of stuff.
Okay, what's new in Find My?
Blah, 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 blah.
There's Micah's home address, his home phone, his mom's number.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Now
there we are. Now you're looking for stuff.
Apple Pencil.
Oh, it's here.
Choose Find Nearby.
Okay.
Rotate to Portrait. Okay.
There's no UWB in the pencil, though.
Your item is closed, so keep moving around. Okay, I'm going to have to get up, so...
Yeah, go ahead. Take a walk.
It's very exciting.
It's just a way of getting rid of him. Don't tell him.
All right, there goes Micah.
So it doesn't have UWB, and it doesn't make sounds. I don't understand how it even Is it Bluetooth strength that it's using?
I think it's Bluetooth. I think it's using. Yeah. It
says your item is very close.
UWB, it knows exactly left or right, but Bluetooth, it's just getting a signal.
That works really amazingly.
It's better than
if you've used Find My lately.
It's better than nothing.
It really, it's
Mikah, you're getting warm.
Works great with the AirPods.
You're warm. You're warm.
Apple
you're
Watch.
Now you're cold.
That's what we really need.
Nope.
Yeah. Still no updated Final Cut or Logic or Final Cut camera, right? These are going to be updated to take advantage.
They should be updated shortly, and most of those features are on Mac and iPad.
Okay. I thought there was a big difference in Final Cut iPad and Final Cut Mac.
There is some, but it's getting closer. And but a lot of the features, especially all those Logic features, got added on both Mac and iPad. The multicam thing is an iPad only feature for Final Cut, which is, I think that's going to not be necessarily a super professional kind of tool, but as a aspirational tool. The fact that you could get together with 4 friends and set up a multi-camera shoot with just an iPad and their iPhones, that's interesting, right? That's really interesting. Instead of having to rent a bunch of cameras or whatever, you could really just sort of like take some tripods with little attachments or just have people handheld, and suddenly you've got a multi-camera environment.
So Apple, I didn't realize this, on Monday released the updates for Logic Pro for Mac and iPad.
Oh, they did?
So all those AI features that they mentioned at the event are now available. So it's Final Cut we're still waiting for, and for Final Cut camera. Those should come out though soon.
I would think so.
So AI is, of course, going to be the topic of the day at WWDC June 10th, we think.
Sure.
No one knows, we think. Is there any way to test local AI on this now? Not yet.
I would say not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's apps that do it.
Core ML apps. That feature Core ML, but that's the extent. So, for example, what they showed was Pixelmator. And there will be, there are a few apps that do generative AI that have made use of Core ML. Your best bet is to kind of do a search for Core ML apps, essentially.
Cool. So we'll play with that. You just got yours. So
yeah.
Then we'll play with it. But you will be covering it, I'm sure, next Tuesday on iOS
100%.
Today with Rosemary Orchard.
Rosemary, unfortunately, unable to get an iPad right away because they weren't available for sale.
UK.
But does have, sadly, not sadly, the accessories, the pencil and the case. Yeah.
I hate it when that happens. I've got a package from Apple. It's a watch band. Woohoo!
An iPhone case. Hooray!
Oh, yay! All right. What else have we got to talk about with the?
Well, it's only one. Did we mention it's only one camera now? I was curious, Jason. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I have literally never used the ultra wide camera on the back of my M1 iPad Pro.
Jason said that in his review. He's got a very good review, by the way.
Just like I can shrug it off because I don't think it matters. I don't know why they did it. Whether it was to offset some of the cost, whether they realized nobody was using it and they didn't need to have it there, whether it reduced the number of things on in the device so that they could make it thinner and lighter. I don't know why. It's an interesting question Apple's not saying, but I never used it, and I suspect they know that most people didn't use it, and it wasn't a differentiator because they kept the LiDAR sensor, they upgraded the flash, but the ultra wide camera, they just whacked it.
Yeah, I didn't use it either. I was happy to see the front-facing camera move to the side. That's cool. And I imagine that's going to be the case for iPads going forward. That's been nice.
Yeah. There was a good, Harry McCracken had a good interview with Jaws and the head of hardware, basically that revealed a couple of things that they know about the iPad going forward. One of which is that, okay, I know that at the very, very start, we imagine people holding it like a piece of paper. Most people hold it sideways like a screen, and therefore everything that they're doing is sort of moving towards making sure that it works great, like horizontally. The other interesting thing from that discussion came from there were a bunch of people who were talking about the question of, well, why aren't you making a touchscreen Mac? And Jaws had the comment that that most Mac users also own an iPad. So they feel as though if those people who are hungry for touchscreens are buying a second device for that. And so long as people so long as Apple gets them to spend like $1,000 plus $2,000, that's much better than one device that only costs $1,500. So that's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, although I would say it's a marketing thing to sell products because it's two guys who are doing product marketing, and Apple Apple will follow that trajectory until it decides it doesn't want to anymore, and then it will change. But yeah, that's the story that they're telling right now, and it may be the truth. We'll see.
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't know if you had the same experience, but talking to people like inside Apple for the past 10 years, they really, at least until the last 2 or 3 years, they really seem to be a very dogmatic thing about it, where they're not even as though they're not even considering touchscreens on Macs, because why would you do that? Why would you put chocolate on a pretzel? That's stupid. That's crazy. That's a sweet thing and a savory thing. That's crazy. And even though there are people still arguing for it, it seems as though it faces a lot of internal, again, dogmatic problems, saying that no, there's a reason why like touchscreens on Windows laptops sell very well. There's a reason why hybrid devices sell very well, obviously in a much larger market. But it's not as though it's not as though tablets are stupid. It's not as though touchscreens on it's not as though you can't create a desktop operating system that doesn't integrate a touchscreen very, very well. I think that a big problem is just going to be philosophy. But as you say, there's no question that they've actually made these things inside the labs, and that it'll be dogma until suddenly it isn't.
Right. Mark Gurman says that a touchscreen MacBook Pro is coming, and what will that be, and how will they?
Really?
I can't wait to hear that story whenever that comes. I think he said 2025, unlikely. But yeah, he says that's the plan, is a touchscreen MacBook Pro. What will that story be? What will the OS revisions be for something like that? That's all. Yeah, that'll be fascinating to see because there is that moment. I mean, Jobs is famous for this too, right? That moment where Apple says, deny. You deny until you've got it, and then you say, well, yes, of course, this is it all along.
We knew you needed a stylus all this time.
Yeah, iPods can play video now.
Yeah. Something that's kind of catching me off guard. Typically, after a hardware launch day, the App Store will shift, and you'll see, here are the best apps to take advantage of the new iPad, or here are the best apps to take advantage of the new iPhone. I'm not seeing any of that in the App Store. Did developers not get as much time to work with this new system? It just catches me off guard.
Or more likely, there was nothing they could do.
No developers could do anything other than the special developers who got behind the scenes access. Everybody else heard about it when we heard about it, so it'll take time. Like I said, I got to build an app.
What would they do that would be
mostly with the pencil,
and the pencil stuff, the pencil APIs are exactly.
That's about it.
And again, the fact that they talked about Core ML so much, we could see some updates there. But yeah, I think the pencils. I got Procreate, and I looked to see if anything else at all had anything, and it doesn't really.
The special partners got the access.
So I don't remember if it was you, Jason. Somebody said, "Okay, everybody, dust off your iPad reviews from last year and the year before and the year before, because it's not that different."
I literally went back to my first iPad Pro review from 2015. And in it, I absolutely say things that that continue to be true today, because even the first iPad Pro with the button on it in 2015, I said, this hardware is amazing, but is always the operating system, because so I stopped trying to make the iPad Pro my travel system when Apple Silicon happened, and I got a great M1 and MacBook Air, and I was like, okay, I'm going to just travel with an iPad and a MacBook Air, and I'm not going to try to do all of my work when I travel on an iPad. So it's been a few years. It's been 4 years. And so spending the last 5 or 6 days trying to do that again, I was reminded, absolutely, iPad OS is further along than it used to be. You couldn't plug in an external drive and see the files, right? Yeah. And you can do that now, and you can move them around. And Stage Manager, while it has quirks, is a multi-windowing system that you can turn on. It behaves, because they shipped the Magic Keyboard in 2020. They have better keyboard integration. They have better trackpad integration.
We forget they didn't even have a trackpad.
The cursor didn't.
Or a cursor for the longest time.
Outside of accessibility, the cursor didn't exist before 2020. The Magic Keyboard didn't exist before 2020. Right. So it's come a long way. The problem is, Apple's hardware, and this is the thing I don't want to get lost when I criticize iPad OS for moving slowly, is I'm criticizing because it's moving more slowly than Apple's hardware and processor design, because they are killing it. That's the thing, is this is an amazing piece of hardware, and the iPad Pro has been a leader in terms of Apple's creativity and excellence in designing hardware. But for the company that lives at the corner of technology and liberal arts, but they also live at the corner of hardware and software and I guess services, maybe it's a roundabout now.
It's a big intersection.
The fact is, if you look at the last 5 or 10 years, Apple's hardware prowess is undaunted.
Yeah.
And their operating system prowess is questionable.
To some degree, you could even say that about Vision Pro.
Yeah, and you could say it about
bit of hardware.
Yeah, and the same about a bunch of stuff that has sort of been static in Mac OS.
Yeah.
I mean,
how's that new calculator though? It's pretty nice. Huh?
No, new calculator's not there yet. That's going to be a new. You need a whole new OS in order to add a calculator. So it's it's not that iPad OS isn't progressing. It's that iPad OS isn't progressing very fast compared to the hardware. The hardware since 2015 has always done more than the software has been able to do. And there was a time in the mid 2010s where it felt like Apple was investing in the iPad because they thought it would be the future of productivity on the desktop and that the Mac was going to be a legacy operating system that faded away. But at some point they switched the Mac to Apple Silicon and it went really well. And they did all the underpinnings of the operating system so that the Mac could run iPad apps and they could do Catalyst and they could do all these things to bring all their iOS software over to the Mac so they didn't have to rewrite it. Suddenly the Mac's much more relevant and there's a real crisis, I think, of faith in the iPad, which is what is it? What's it for? And is it a computing device like a Mac, or is it just a thing that you sit on the couch and watch movies and check your email? And I think that either path is fine. My question is, like, I priced a version of this that I would buy before the show, and it was $2,500 because it's the 1 terabyte model with the keyboard and the pencil. It's $2,500 to create this thing, and it's unique. It's a convertible that Apple doesn't offer, a convertible laptop. So this is it. Like, all of that is great, but like for that, I kind of want to be able to just use this as my laptop, and it can't. And that's my issue is like, why is there an iPad Pro? Why does it cost $2,500, $3,000 if you trick it out with all the laptop stuff? That's my question. It's like, if you're going to do that, do you want to serve that audience? Because if they don't, that's fine, but I'm not sure why the $3,000 iPad is around.
There is one reason Luca Maestri might like, which is that every app on the iPad gives 30% of its profits to Apple.
But that doesn't explain why they've been so slow to update iPad OS, and right, that it's still lacking in things like...
Maybe they should do more with it because it's profitable.
Because bottom line, I mean, I've theorized...
They sell more iPads than Macs.
They do, at a lower selling price, but yeah, they do, absolutely. So, I mean, Federico Vitici on Mac Stories wrote a story because he didn't get the review unit. It was going to come too late. So he spent his weekend writing the definitive. When we talk about all the things that iPad OS doesn't do, I hear from a lot of people who just use their iPad on the couch and they're like, what do you mean it's fine? It's like, okay, well, people who don't use the iPad as much think it's fine. People who use it a lot, no, it's not. Okay. So Federico, who uses it more than anyone, went through the list. And some of these are fairly basic. The file manager isn't very good. It's missing a bunch of apps. The desktop class apps are not really desktop class. There's no support for background tasks.
That's a big one.
If
you start rendering a video in Final Cut, and switch out of it.
It's an M4 with 16 gigs of RAM, and if you leave Final Cut Pro while it's exporting, it cancels because it can't run in the background, even if you've got a multi-windowing. And it goes for things like you've got a Stream Deck here. Well, the way Stream Deck works is that there's a little background app that runs that lets you kick things off. You can't do that on iPad OS. There are no global keyboard shortcuts for apps, right? Like, and all of these decisions were made because iPad OS is really iOS. It came from the iPhone in 2007. They had no battery. They had no RAM. They were desperate, and they made this system. The problem is, that they've been making an iPad Pro for 9 years, and some of this stuff that is not like we're asking for, rocket science. It's things like, things should probably be able to run in the background. When I'm listening to music and I go into an app that uses the microphone, or I tap on a video in social media, my music shouldn't stop.
Amen.
But it stops. Why? Because on iPhone OS back in 2007, they were like, oh, no, we can only play one thing at a time, and they've never changed it. So that's the challenge here, is that they don't have to do everything. They don't have to make the iPad the Mac, but it frustrates me to see them make hardware of this class and realize the whole litany of things that they have not built into the operating system that I don't think are esoteric super power user features. I think that they're sort of like fundamental computer features that would allow a whole new class of utilities to be in the App Store, and they can take their 30% and all of that, but they haven't done it. And so that's my question is, what is the priority here? Because you're making amazing hardware, but the software still is just not there. It's just not there. And to be a pro or even prosumer level piece of hardware, you need some flexibility. You need to be able to add those little utilities and those little add-ons and have that kind of functionality. And iPad OS, when you hit the brick wall, you hit it hard, and there's nowhere to go from there.
For us as podcasters, we know how we would want to use it.
Yeah,
and we can't.
Yeah, the audio subsystem, which leads to the more general thing of you're playing music and you tap on a video on Threads and forget it. The music just stops, and then you have to go get it later because you don't. Where did it go? It just stopped. And then that also affects us, where you can't just record a microphone in one app and then use it in Zoom. It can't be done. How could two apps use a microphone at the same time?
We remember Andy's travails at the Boston Public Library with his iPad.
Just 2 weeks ago.
Gruber, I think, was trying to get a little bit of a different take on it.
Yes. Speaking of people who don't use the iPad.
He's saying it's kind of more like a Lexus to a Toyota. Like, it's just got a nicer fit and finish. And it's foolish to expect it to operate like a Mac.
Is it costs all that money, especially if you buy the keyboard, because you're just buying it because it's nicer.
It's a BMW.
I mean, nice. I would say that is the kind of argument you make when you have no other arguments left to you. I mean, again, I love John. I saw him last week. He's a great guy. He's a guy who doesn't get the iPad. He doesn't really use the iPad. He doesn't really care about it. And a lot of the people who are saying it's fine really are people who don't try to use it. He
does make the point, though, and I think this is a good point, that it is very popular as is.
Right, but not the iPad Pro.
Not the Pro so much.
Not the iPad Pro. Like the iPad, because that's the thing, is like there are different kinds of iPads. If Apple were to say the iPad is not a professional operating system, it's just a big, nice tablet, and we sell it, at lower prices. But when they make a $350 keyboard and a $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 tablet, and then they call it Pro, and then they sell it. Like, I do think it suggests a level of commitment to that kind of user that they can't back up.
I'm sorry. I just had to have a moment here.
What happened to your iPad? You went back to your laptop.
Well, it's because I remember I had to do a quick install, so I don't have all my stuff. But what made me laugh is just getting perspective on the fact of what you just said. A $350 keyboard. That is a $350 keyboard. That's ridiculous.
You're sitting up front.
Yours is about $300.
You're sitting in first class seats. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I mean there's truth in that, because we know in other product categories, people buy MacBook Pros because they're the nicer, they got a nicer screen and they're nicer.
OLED alone might sell a lot of them.
At this point, a lot of our technology devices are so powerful that most people will never take advantage of that power. So there is some truth in that. But I guess I look at the iPad Pro and I think I just don't buy it. I think that is a very high-end product with high-end specs. There are other products in that product line. So I think it's an existential crisis for the iPad Pro. It continues to be, what does Apple want it to be?
Basically, you're buying a $100,000 car that can only go 35 miles an hour on the freeway. I mean, it's luxurious.
Right. Or it's not street legal.
It's not, Well, people do that.
Yeah.
People do that. Andy.
Yeah, I mean, it's way too. The iPad Pro is way too expensive to be that annoying that regularly. That's just my point of view. That it does some things extremely well. It would do those things even better if it were a Mac. And
you don't want to put Mac OS on an iPad, though, do you?
No. What I want is for Apple 10 years ago to decide that they did not necessarily have to have this big bifurcation between a tablet OS and a multi-touch OS and a desktop OS. They could be, with 10 years worth of progress, have a device so that we would still have a $329 iPad that the people who just like surf the web on the sofa, read books, watch movies in an airline seat would love, and they would think was absolutely perfect with all the limitations it has. But the rest of us, instead of spending $2,000, $2,500 on a top of the line iPad, in addition to already owning like a $2,000 MacBook, would be buying a really, really wonderful convertible or just something with a touchscreen. I see the failure of Apple to make the right bet 10 years ago. I mean, hindsight is 2020, but I don't think that they just simply made an alternate choice. I think they just made a bad choice.
Do you think they're committed now? Do you think they can make up for their lost time?
No, not really, because they already have so much. The iPad Pro is already such a really well put together product for what it is. And if it is true that people are not necessarily making a choice between a MacBook and an iPad, then it's not really quite so important for them to move on that. It's just that it just seems very, very clumsy that you still have an iPad that has so many limitations on it that seem so artificial. That I mean, the list that Jason cited is absolutely stunning, and it's basically a list of every person who loves their iPad who has ever been stabbed in the back by their iPad. Look on that menu. You will find the menu item. You will find the item on that list that stabbed them in the back for it. Oh. And so much of this just seems absolutely artificial. There's so many, like even plain old Android. Okay. When they changed their design language, the UI design language to Material Design, they came up with something that I thought was absolutely brilliant, because nothing on this user interface looks like it's locked into nothing. If you're using it on a phone, using it on a tablet without a keyboard or a mouse attached, nothing about it seems like it's nothing that it's designed for anything other than simply touch only. But as soon as it senses you've got a mouse connected to it, without any changes really to the UI, suddenly all these beautiful little items on the screen are now obviously click targets, and the navigating between things on the keyboard are so easy. And so to me, that puts paid to the idea that no, you can't have a toaster fridge. No, that's just something that you made up because you didn't want to really address the complaint. I think that it could be possible. I think Apple could have done something that transcended what Android did by times 10, but they simply again made this dogmatic decision that we are going to have two different operating systems. One is going to be touch, one is not going to be touch, and that's it. And I think they're paying the price right now.
Yeah, I think so. I also do think that there was a moment where they thought they were going to put the Mac on an ice floe and make the iPad more Mac-like, and then they changed their mind for maybe some good reasons. I'm a Mac user. I love the Mac. I wouldn't want the Mac to go into legacy mode where it just stayed on Intel and didn't get any new features and it just was kind of out there. But I think the challenge with this is I hear from a lot of people when we say we think the iPad OS should be better, who say, it's just an iPad, just get a Mac, use a Mac if you want to use that. It's fine. And what's funny, and Federico alludes to this in his article too, is, in the late 2010s when they had the butterfly keyboard and the USB-C and all of that, a lot of those people weren't saying it's fine. They were complaining.
Right.
And the reason is because what Apple does is worth criticizing.
Yeah.
We don't need to be sitting here if everything Apple says is gospel,
right,
and doesn't need to be criticized. And one of the jobs that we have as observers of technology and as observers of Apple is to point out when, for example, Apple's hardware is killing it, their processor design is killing it, and their software is kind of stumbling and limited and is not living up to the promise of the hardware. If I worked on hardware at Apple, I'd be mad at how poorly the OS team has executed, especially on the iPad, which is some amazing hardware. One of the things I say in my review is, I wish iPad OS loved the iPad as much as I did, right? Because I love the iPad. But iPad OS is just sluggishly, sort of like very slowly kind of creeping along.
So why though? Why doesn't Apple fix this? They certainly have the resources. Is it a commercial decision, or are they really hogtied because they don't have the people? What's going on?
I think some of it is structural. I think that they don't have necessarily as many people as we think. And I think the problem that I guess is happening, and I don't have a lot of insight into this, I'm just trying to gaze into the black box here, but my guess is iPad OS is essentially iOS. It's really hard to prioritize iPad features over iPhone features because the iPhone is half the company's revenue. And when you do iPad features, are you prioritizing that whatever tiny sliver of iPad use use is the iPad Pro? Probably not. And so professional level iPad features, now that the Mac is going to stick around and they don't need to build a life raft for all their Pro customers, they can take their feet off the gas. And that's why in desperation, I suggested a couple months ago, maybe they should just, on this hardware that's capable of running it, maybe they should just virtualize Mac OS for the people who are complaining. And I don't want that to happen. I want the iPad to get better. But the point is, what I really want is a really nice piece of hardware that's a convertible touch tablet that can be a laptop in Apple's ecosystem. And right now, I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place because the Mac is not a touchscreen and the Mac is not a convertible. The iPad is, but it isn't
There's not
capable.
much distinction, though, between an iPad running Mac OS and a MacBook Air running Mac
Indeed,
OS.
right? Except one of
So
them
that's why they
costs
don't-
about $1,000 more than the other.
Yeah, but that might be why they don't do it, that there's not a distinct SKU.
I mean, if I would be greatly disappointed if the reason Apple didn't make these strategic decisions with their platforms is largely because they just want everybody to buy everything, especially when you're talking about the high-end system with the giant margins.
Maybe they should kill the Pro and just make
Maybe
an
they should.
Air and a Mini. And if you want Pro, you should get a MacBook.
Maybe they should.
Sounds like that's a more clean product line. All of this Sturm and Drang is because of the
Because they've done too good a job with
they've
their
done
hardware.
too good a job with the Pro.
Yeah.
Could you? Is it glib of me to say, oh, you don't want to put Mac OS on an iPad Pro? Should you? Could you?
I mean,
Would
this
you?
thing in front of me has a 13-inch screen. It has an M4 and it
Has
has 16
everything
gigs of
you'd
RAM
need.
and a terabyte of storage. So it absolutely can run Mac OS. Plus, don't forget, they've got the hypervisor framework. It's built into their chips. It's built into their operating system. They could do it if they wanted to do it. I'm not saying it would be a win. It would be a loss, right? It would be a loss
because it muddied the waters.
Because it would mean that iPad OS had no motivation to get better, which it really needs. But like, if the only way for an Apple convertible to exist is for it to be on this hardware, I'd take it.
Should they pull a Steve Jobs and get a building down an infinite loop and raise the pirate flag and take the whole iPad OS team and put them there and say,
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
I don't think there's an iPad OS team. I think it's just part of the iOS
Well, that's
team.
that's the problem right there.
Yeah.
If you don't have a team that wants to beat iOS and Mac OS,
Well, this is one of the knocks on Apple's usually, lauded corporate structure is sometimes it's unclear, like who's the owner of who is the iPad champion? Who's the Vision Pro champion?
That's what Steve did with Macintosh.
And that was the knock on the Vision Pro, right? Was one of the things that people criticized about the Vision Pro is who is the one who's got the vision for where it's going, or is it just scattered with every other priority that they've got across this huge company? And I think
such
the iPad
a big
suffers
company,
too.
they could have a division that's the Vision Pro division. They could have a division that's the iPad division.
Vision's right in the name.
It's in
Vision division.
The Vision division. I like it.
What happened to that narrative that Tim Cook was ignoring the Mac for the iPad, that Tim Cook specifically loved the iPad? If it was that kind of just all bluster, or was there any truth to that? And if so, did Tim have more of an effect on the hardware side of the iPad than the software side? Or was that, again, just kind of something people thought at the time?
I mean, I can't wait to hear the real story here, but the guess that I have is that the Apple chips were so good that at some point they made a strategic decision to just take the Mac off of Intel, and they felt it was worth it. Because I really felt in 2016 or 2017, like they were just going to keep the Mac on Intel and put it out on that ice flow. And they looked at what chips were doing on the iPhone and the iPad and were like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just bring the Mac over. We'll spend the money. We'll spend the time. We'll recompile. We'll deal with all the complexities of a chip that was designed for phones, putting it in a Mac. And they did it. And they executed. And so I think if I'm Tim Cook, to answer your question, Micah, I look at what Johnny Sruji and the boys down in the chip lab are doing, and it turns me around on the Mac. And so they invest in, because there is a lot shared at the subsystem level. This is a thing people don't talk about as much as they should. A few years ago, they mentioned in one of their WWDC sessions that they had put a lot of effort, I think around Catalina, when they broke compatibility with a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. The two OSs had kind of drifted apart since they got forked in 2007 to make the iPhone. They brought them back together, all that underlying stuff. That allowed them to do Catalyst. That allowed them to do iOS apps.
They went from 32-bit to 64-bit.
Yeah, and that allowed them to do all of that. Well, and that means that now they build a feature for the iPhone and they can put it on the Mac. And once you do that, like, Why not keep the Mac
lines
around?
are blurred.
Why not keep the Mac around? But then I think it leads to the question of like, oh, well, then what do we do with the iPad? Yeah. And I'm not sure they've got an answer.
I figure somebody in the executive suite, maybe more than one, is listening to this. What's your advice? What do you say? What do you say to them?
I would say, one, make iPad OS good, make it functional and its own thing, and not just a copy of the Mac. But I would also say, at this point, given the hardware, buy yourself some time, take the pressure off. Don't be afraid of using your amazing hardware and that whole hypervisor system that you built to just let people with an iPad Pro with a keyboard and a trackpad attached to run a virtualized Mac if they need to, and that'll shut them up. And it'll show off how amazing your hardware is, and it's not really going to cost you sales. And if it means more people buy iPad Pros, the margins on those are great. But I would say before that, number one, please don't give up on iPad OS, because I think if you started adding some of these other features, a lot of people would stop. The narrative would stop, but you actually have to put in the investment, make things run in the background, right? Let Final Cut export in the background, right? Like, let's start there.
If I had to take a guess, I would say that might have been the plan at one point.
I think it was.
And everything had to get put back in the back burner along with the Apple Car because of AI. And all of a sudden, the whole ship now has to point in a different direction. They've got a good story hardware-wise for AI. They need to find a software story for AI. And suddenly that is the priority. And so what might have been isn't going to happen now because they've got to focus on something different.
And I think that the lack of the iPad ever being a top priority is how we got here, right?
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be a higher priority than the iPad because of the iPhone and because of whatever the hot topic is right now.
Well, they need the next thing, and they know the iPad's not it. They know the iPhone is not it. They know the Mac is not it. They're hoping that there'll be a next thing.
Yeah.
That's where the attention has to be right now.
Right.
Let's take a little break. Andy Anako is in the beautiful library with the azaleas and the things and walking on the trail. It's great to see you with the things on the trail there, and trees, I think those are called.
You're sounding like AI. I think what I'm seeing is...
Hey, Leo, what's in this picture?
Can we read it? Can we read it? We're zooming in.
Hold on,
center.
enhance. AI
enhance. Zoom.
It's we don't have the budget.
I think it says
dang it.
apple cider donuts next stop. Thank you, Andy Anako. Also with us. See, Andy and I are at a little bit of a disadvantage. You guys are looking at your beautiful new OLED display.
Yeah, just gazing
M4
into
enabled iPads. Micah Sargent has the 11-inch. Jason Snell has the 13-inch. They're going to measure.
Can't be with the iPad you love the iPad you're with.
After this word. And here I am on a Linux desktop. What? This episode of MacBreak Weekly brought to you by Wix Studio. Now, they only gave me 60 seconds to tell you about Wix Studio, the web platform for agencies and enterprises. So, in a minute or less, here are a few things you can do from start to finish on Studio. 1, adapt your designs for every device with responsive AI. Expand Wix Studio's pre-made solutions with back-end and front-end APIs. Generate code and troubleshoot bugs with a built-in AI code assistant. 4, switch up the styling of hundreds of web pages, fonts, layouts, colors, everything in a click. 5, add no-code animations and gradient backgrounds right there in the editor. 6, start a design library. 7, package your code and UI and reusable full-stack apps. Oh, and one more big thing, deliver everything your client needs in one smooth handover. All right, I'm out of time, but the list just keeps on going. If you haven't visited Wix Studio lately, oh boy, you will be in for an eyeful. It looks so good. Step into Wix Studio and see for yourself. Go to Wix, Wix.com/studio, or click the link on our show notes to find out more. Wix.com/studio. Tip of the hat to Wix. Doing a great job. And thank you for sponsoring MacBreak Weekly. Oh, it's a fascinating conversation, but it's funny because it's the same conversation every single person who has an iPad is having with their friends, their family, and themselves. And I just don't understand with themselves. Like, well, why isn't this better?
Yeah.
I would love to use this full time. I don't know what would have to be. That was, I guess, John Gruber's point is, well, what would you do to the software? But Federico answered.
Background tasks.
Yeah. Text edit.
Yeah, a menu bar.
Calculator. No.
I mean, a menu bar in Stage Manager would not be bad.
Oh, I would love a menu bar.
Because it's very hard to do discovery inside
Wasn't
apps.
Stage Manager their attempt to do some of this?
I mean, Stage Manager is multi-window. It needs work, but in the second iteration, it's usable. I have been using it for the last 6 days, and it's fine. It's got some nice features, and it's a little bit weird at times, but who isn't? But here's the thing: is part of my attitude towards Stage Manager is they did it and then they fixed some stuff in year 2, and what is my faith that they're gonna iterate it in year 3 and 4 and 5 and 6?
Yeah,
and I don't believe it. If I had to bet, I'd guess that in 3 or 4 years, Stage Manager will be unchanged from what it is today because they will have moved on to some other feature and they will have shipped something that was not really good enough, but not bad enough to update it.
But they did bring it to the Mac, so I never used it on the Mac, to be clear. Go ahead, sorry.
Maybe I'm being a little bit optimistic here, but what if the reason why that they're not really making a lot of move on Stage Manager is because they know that in 2 years from now they're going to have a multi-touch Mac interface, and so a lot of that stuff is going to be moot. Hopefully,
is that what you're rooting for?
No, I'm just saying that I think it's very, very odd that they really, really made a good start off the blocks there with Stage Manager. And it really filled me with a little bit of optimism that, yeah, they are really finally deciding that, okay, well, look, if we are charging $1,500 for an iPad Pro, and with this really, really optimal trackpad and keyboard that is as good as most laptops you'll get out there, we need to make sure that the UI is up to the game, that multitasking isn't as cumbersome to use as it always has been. The first version was some good ideas. The second iteration really built on that, and I was kind of hoping that year after year after year we'd see it getting closer and closer and closer to something that's optimal as opposed to something that's optional, which is what it is right now. So I keep wondering, we love reading the tea leaves at Apple. Sometimes it really is that there's just nobody amongst the 10 to 12 people who really run the company. There's nobody it's possible there's just nobody in that group that feels so strongly about the iPad that they're willing to start pushing things through and make that a real priority. And there aren't enough people at Apple to basically do that kind of stuff independently. So
my problem is the convertible form factor is really appealing in a lot of ways.
Do you detach it frequently?
I only put it in the case when I'm using it as a laptop. The rest of the time
you're holding it.
I'm holding it just as it is or in a little folio case. And so, okay, touchscreen Mac is great, but it's still a laptop. And I don't think there are any rumors saying that Apple is going to make a convertible Mac, which I would be like, if you could make a convertible Mac that had a touch mode that was iPad-like in some ways, that would be approaching the same issue from the opposite direction, but it might get us there. I just don't have a lot of faith in that. I think that as several of you have said here, that Apple has got this very weird problem where they've got laptops over here and tablets over there, and then in the middle, they've kind of got nothing, or they've got something, but it's kind of weird. And the problem I have is that having used the iPad Pro since 2015 a lot, I really like the fact that I can have it be a laptop and then pop the thing off and it's a tablet. That's powerful, and it's not for everybody, absolutely. But I love it. And Apple, this is it right now. So, I mean, yeah, I'd be interested in a convertible MacBook Pro. That'd be another way to go.
Is it an artificial stop that because they don't want to confuse things and they want the Mac to exist on its own, that's why we haven't seen the introduction of the touchscreen Mac? Because then people would be going, well, then what's the point of the iPad? And then vice versa. If the iPad was able to run Mac OS, well, then why do we need this MacBook laptop? Do we think it's more artificial that those constraints are in place? Or is it genuinely, because it seems like many of us continue to ask for that, but is it just also that we're just the loudest people in the room?
Dogma and history, right? I think some of it is that, like I've said, I think that their view of where the iPad and the Mac were going has changed over time. And I think some of it is dogma. It is weird. A friend of mine Actually, Dan Morin, our dungeon buddy, his wife is buying a new laptop and he's helping her shop for it. And he had this very Mac user moment where he realized every other laptop in the world has a touchscreen and you don't even think about it. And it's weird, right? Like, it's weird that because having used this, like, I've got, even with the keyboard, I'll scroll and stuff, and it's like it's just an extra thing. And then Apple has just said dogmatically, like, no, never. And I think that some of it is that, and I think some of it is, well, we already have a touch thing. It's over there. It's a separate product, but it has served them well in some cases, but I think it's serving them poorly in this case.
And let me ask you this, because I've done this before. I've SSH'd into my Mac from my iPad using an app. Is there a way that you've used specifically to, from your iPad, view the screen of your Mac and go around? And what do you use to do that?
I mean, I wish they had screen sharing.
That's what I want
in iPad OS, like they do in Mac OS.
Share to Mac to iPad OS.
I use the Idovia app Screens, which is really good, Connect, and also runs on the Mac. And you run a little Mac app called Screens Connect on your Mac, and it will break through. It'll connect even if you've got a router and all of that. It'll let you connect. And the new version, it's a subscription app, so you got to pay for that, but it is even higher quality in terms of the screen. And so I was saying before the show, I posted a podcast the other day just on my iPad, and I ended up with a WAV file that I needed to get into an MP3. And I realized it was already an iCloud drive. The easiest thing for me to do was use Screens to connect back to my Mac at home.
So why isn't that good enough? Isn't that virtualization?
It's you got to own a Mac and have it on the internet all the time. But sure, it's not a bad fallback. There's latency if you're outside the house.
It's not just latency, but like part of it for me is that I want to be able to connect to external hardware. I want I/O, and
so I can't connect my microphone to it.
Also,
maybe some of it is that we are old-fashioned fuddy-duddies. I was accusing Paul Thurrott of that because he said, you can't call it a pro if it doesn't have access to files and file system. And so maybe that's an oldfashioned way of thinking of computing.
Well, the way I put it in my review is I feel like pros, what is a pro? I mean, and if John Gruber's right, pro just means nice, and Lexus, okay, fine, whatever. But what I think a pro is not specifically something like file access. I think what pro is there is no one pro workflow. No. Every pro is in a niche. And so in order to make pro products, you need to have the flexibility to fill a lot of little professional niches across the board. The challenge with the iPad is that if Apple doesn't prefigure your particular use case, you can't do it. Like that's whereas on the Mac, you can figure it out. So when Federico writes about background tasks, that's a great example of like, oh, then you've got a utility that can run in the background that can do a thing. That's good for pros, right? And it's really broad. Like, oh, background is not a feature. It's an enabler for a lot of different features and little accessory hardware and stuff like that. It's things like that it's the inflexibility of parts of the iPad that I think make it not as strong a pro product. So that's how I would define it. Is it's more just 100%. Like if we talk to pros, we've all known professional, creative professionals and engineers and all sorts of things like that. Everybody's job is like a little bit weird and a little bit different. And the reason that a computer is good for that is that you can make it do that thing even if Microsoft or Apple never ever considered that use case because it's an open platform. Problem with the iPad is if Apple didn't pre-consider your particular use case, you can't do it. You just can't do it.
And there's a lot of people in that boat.
Sure.
There's really, I'd say, a small number of pros who can use it.
I mean, if you can use it because the app that you use to do your job is on the iPad and is fully featured, like Procreate or Affinity Designer or like, but then great.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah. I also think at this point, Apple is probably thinking, we need to skate to where the puck is going. This is all old stuff. We've got new fish to fry. You don't think so?
No, it's just that I don't think that people are wrong to fault the iPad for the things that we've been talking about.
I agree.
Okay, because when you look at every, but just for conversation, that like the fact that that 80% of the people out there, then 80% of the market that is not the Mac, I think that's the latest number or whatever. that part of the industry has decided that people are buying touchscreen devices, people are buying convertibles, people are buying laptops that have 360-degree hinges on them that in and of themselves are just really wonderful and great. I still the reason why I keep my Pixel Book around is because I just love that form factor of it's a traditional keyboard, trackpad, screen device separated by hinge, but when I need it to be just sort of like a little easel that I'm in a conference or I'm in a meeting with, I want to consult notes, or I just want to be able to add little notes to it, but it's out of the way. It turns into that. It's more durable for more uses than I can think of. The fact that that's not just a niche, but that's based almost exactly what the market is outside of Apple means that this is normal, and it's Apple's the people that are being different in terms of what the Pro should be. I just think that everybody, it's easy to say that 80% of the people out there, I'm here talking about 80% of Apple users, 80% of Windows users, Linux users, whatever. Most devices can serve the needs of 80% of the people, but that doesn't mean that the other 20% are some faraway niche. It's that every individual, every one person who buys a computer has that 20% of features that is not being addressed by a certain thing. So it's a different thing for all kinds of other people. So if the design aesthetic of a certain operating system or piece of hardware is that we decide that we care up to this point, but no further than this point. That's Bush League. That's not how you become a great creator or a great designer or a great company. You have to swing at every pitch that's thrown at you, as opposed to saying, I'm only going to swing at pitches that are right here on this part of the plate. Anything else, I'm either going to take the walk or I'm going to take the strikeout. Sometimes that's what the feeling that I get from Apple, that they don't want to swing at every pitch. And sometimes that's a wonderful thing, because it means that they don't make a lot of bonehead products that a lot of other companies get swept up to do. But that also means that they're not interested in solving problems that they're not interested in, which means that they are not great at solving all the problems that they are supposed to be solving.
I have to point out, though, one of the reasons there's such diversity in the world of PCs is because there are thousands of companies, and it is 80% of the market, and there is competition, and it's almost a Darwinian process that Apple just doesn't have access to. And yes, they have. It's true. Now you should probably start to look at what the Darwinian process has resulted in, which is touch screen and a variety of things. But Apple didn't have the benefit of that. They have one company, one product line. It's like saying, well, why didn't Lenovo figure out that you wanted to be able to detach it? Well, they didn't, because they're one company, but Microsoft did and created a convertible, and then Lenovo could create a convertible. So you're in a different kind of space when you're making PCs. And there are a lot of PCs that don't have touchscreens, by the way. And there are a lot of people who buy PCs without touchscreens intentionally. So that, I don't know if you can compare Apple to the rest of the market. It's in a very different position. My point, though, is I think Apple at this point, and look, I'm going to point to the New York Times article by Trip Mickle, Brian X. Chen, and Cade Metz that says a year ago, Apple's top executives decided that Siri needed a brain transplant. Now, I know if Alex Lindsay were here, he would defend Siri.
Oh, of course he would.
So just in your mind, imagine Alex going, what's wrong with Siri?
It always works at my house.
The decision, they wrote, came after the executives, Craig Federighi and John Giandrea, spent weeks testing take me weeks. But anyway, OpenAI's new chatbot, ChatGPT, this is a year ago. The product's use of generative artificial intelligence made Siri look antiquated. Duh. Took them weeks to figure that out. Said two people familiar with the company's work who didn't have permission to speak publicly. So at that point, according to the Times, and I think Trip Mickle and Cade Metz and Brian X. Chen are pretty well connected. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're not, the three of them, as good as one Mark Gurman, but I think they have sources. And I think they said at that point, Apple said, we've got to catch up in AI. Apple has made, they wrote a generative AI, a tent pole project. In fact, they use as evidence the cancellation of the Apple car. Apple saying, you know what, we can't spend any more money on this. We've got to, and they took all those people and $10 billion that they'd spent on the Apple car and reassigned it to AI.
The line that I thought was really good is the fear of it becoming a dumb brick. The idea that if AI powers everything, then the iPhone is no longer able to differentiate itself, and those are the crown jewels. So they got to they got to jump on it.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's almost a direct quote from the discovery documents from internal Apple communications about how Apple does a lot of their thinking. The challenge of Android, the challenge of multi-platform connectivity on a lot of their services. That as soon as Apple just becomes a cloud, a connection to a cloud service as software is being run off another device, we're just another phone, and we don't want that to happen. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is that Apple maybe sees all sorts of things they'd like to do with the iPad, but suddenly alarm bells are ringing, and they're trying to save their core product and their core technologies.
Absolutely. And I think I'm skeptical of the report that they suddenly realized Siri was bad a year ago.
That seems a little odd.
But I do think
maybe they don't listen to this show.
I do think that there maybe had been some corporate storytelling going on about, oh, no, we're working on Siri. We're working on it. It's going to get better.
They did not invent Siri in-house. They bought a company.
Yeah.
And they didn't really improve it. In fact, to some eyes, they actually unimproved it.
Yeah, and they were first out, but then it's kind of fallen on hard times. So I think they knew that. I think what happened is there was some corporate fiction going on about what was going to happen with Siri, and then the chatbots put the lie to the corporate fiction. They said, no, you failed. And what you're doing is not working, and you need to start again. And you know what? It can be really hard when your company makes lots and lots and lots of money to make hard decisions like that. But then you get that clarifying moment, and they're very fortunate if that chatbot moment happened with enough time for them to course correct, right? Because the other way this could have gone is they could have laughed it off until it was too late. And maybe it's not too late for them to get in the game and to make the iPhone continue to be relevant. But it was a moment of existential dread for them. And to their credit, at least, they were like, oh yeah, snap out of it. We got to fix this.
The article confirms what DigiTimes had said, that they are exploring creating servers powered by the Apple Silicon chips. The idea being they would then save money and create consistency between the tools used for processes in the cloud and on its devices. They also said, this article in the New York Times says, rather than compete directly with ChatGPT by releasing a chatbot that does things like write poetry, which, by the way, nobody really wants. The three people familiar with its work, it's good for a demo. Apple has said Apple's focused on making Siri better at handling the things it already does, setting timers. It's pretty good at setting timers, creating calendar appointments, and adding items to a grocery list. It would also be able to summarize text messages. That's something it does not do.
Sure, and keep context, right? That's one of the important things that the chatbots do that Siri can never do.
Concurrent with this article, we heard that they were very close to making a deal with OpenAI to license what I would guess is this thing that OpenAI announced on Monday, this ChatGPT 4.0 Omni, which is really a chatbot, and it is exactly what they're looking for, I think, without the poetry angle. And then there are also consistent rumors that they're talking to Google. And so one of the questions we've been asking, and I don't know if we're getting any closer to an answer, maybe we'll find out June 10th, is Apple just going to take these existing chatbots and add them to Siri? Or are they going to make that's what I was using. I was using the action button to talk to Omni, GPT-4 Omni.
I really wonder how much of those choices, because when we have heard about these rumors, Apple is mostly focused on this on-device stuff, including being able to summarize text messages, which can happen on device, some things with photos, et cetera, and making Siri better, again, with the context. All of that avoids any of the quote unquote hallucination problem, right? If you partner with a third party company and you let it do the part where hallucination might happen, you're not necessarily responsible if those things go wrong. And I really think that Apple wants to avoid any aspect of the hallucination, on top of the fact that then it gets to continue to talk about how privacy is at the core, privacy is a human right, all of the kind of implications of when we're not doing it on device and sending it away.
I really think Apple has very quickly, by the end of this year, has to have a device, probably the iPhone, maybe the Vision Pro, maybe AirPods, that you can talk to, that you can have it do things, that you can implement shortcuts. It needs that, and it needs it now.
I feel like it's the two-tiered approach, right? Where they've got the on-device intelligence.
You can do both.
And they've got, I mean, Micah's right. The search engine approach where, you can use a third-party AI tool, and it puts it at arm's length, and it lets Apple being like, I don't know. I mean, Google's going to do whatever it's going to do, and that's not us. But that can't be the only solution, right? So
and also that everybody will see as an excuse, and everybody will still blame Apple. It's not going to get them off the hook.
But I think that is what their strategy probably is that they're going to have an on-device model. They're going to have a bunch of things that are running on their own cloud services that are doing certain things, and they're also going to have maybe multiple, maybe ChatGPT and Gemini.
I'm wondering too if it's going to be multiple.
But Apple will have to be able to say, if you use Siri, unlike Google and OpenAI, it stays on devices, stays on our data centers. It's private.
Right.
And they're going to have to say, but we can't guarantee that with Google or OpenAI.
Yeah, I don't know how that distinction is going to take place, to be honest.
Yeah. Also, whatever deal Apple makes, it has to make sense for OpenAI. It has to make sense for Gemini.
Well, Google's already paying $20 billion to Apple. We know at least.
Right.
Just for the search. So there's money in it for Apple, I guess. Yeah.
That's why I'm saying that they might be agreeing to terms that in court testimony, in court discovery in 3 years from now, we might not necessarily approve of, because part of it is that if you're going to be if this costs money to run, it costs energy to run, you have to build more data centers. Once you have every single iPhone in the United States of America running this model, as long as if it's not 100% being done on device, that's going to run into a lot of money, and there has to be some revenue generated by it, and Apple's going to want a piece of that. Also, OpenAI and Google, they're going to want to be able to train their models on all this experience. They're going to want to have access to data. And is Apple going to be able to offer them a deal that gives them what they need, not just what they want, but what they need, while also allowing them to keep that halo that they put on their heads about, hey, we're the only companies that care about you, the person. We're the only company that cares about privacy and security. So they can't bend that halo any more than they already have.
There's also a structural issue. In fact, in this article, they quote John Berkey, who was in the Siri team for 2 years and then left Apple. Berkey said, the structural problem at Apple is the real blind spot. The company's divisions operate independently of one another. They're siloed and they don't share information. He said AI needs to be threaded, and I'd agree, through products, all of them kind of as a common thread to succeed. And he says that's not in Apple's DNA. So that may be a structural problem for them.
It could be, but how much of a shock to the system was this a year ago, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, because this is somebody who's left Apple, it's possible that they said, okay, everybody has to, this is now a corporate priority and everybody has to get behind this. And how are you working with this? But yeah, I think, I do wonder if they've got some sort of differential privacy kind of thing going on where they're going to be able to use their on-device model to make queries to off-device models.
There you go.
With particular details, but
Bingo.
it'll be
Doesn't
anonymized.
pass that information. It's anonymizing, yeah.
And it'll turn it over.
Bingo.
But because also every query can give a certain amount of background. So it can say like, here's what we've been talking about, and now here's the new query. If they did that right, I mean, Apple has done this before where they've taken something that we've all said, oh, that's going to be hard to anonymize. And they're like, oh, we went in the lab and the boffins came up with a thing for us to do this.
That's the term they use.
So they might be able to do it.
Mr. Blue, you may remember Mr. Blue asked a question 5 minutes ago. Mr. Blue has another question. You don't know who Mr. Blue is. I know, and I will make sure they get the answer.
So Apple might be some of their secret sauce is holding whether it's Gemini or GPT at arm's length a little bit. And remember, those things, the brilliant thing about those chatbots, for all the stupid things they do, is you can tell them how you want them to respond. So I can see a pre-formatted thing where it's like, this is Apple coming from an iPhone. We have a question. Here's the background. This is Mr. Blue.
No sex.
And that's right. Here's all the things you do not say. And then send it back to us as a JSON file, please.
Yeah.
And they can do that.
We'll take it from there. Yeah, I think that's very
that's
smart.
a really good point.
Exactly what they'll do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's exactly what they'll do.
I mean, they'll try. I mean, it's all going to be in the execution, right? But that and I know I've said this on this show before, but like, I feel like that is the goal here is like Apple's in a position where if they can make this a product people want to use and find valuable, which they're usually good at, they can win this thing. I think the challenge with AI right now is that AI, everybody looks at it as incredibly powerful, but a lot of the examples of how it's being demoed are ridiculous.
Well, it's an interesting question. I agree with you. We were talking during the Google event yesterday and the OpenAI event the day before Jeff Jarvis was on. And one of the things I pointed out is that these companies seem to get in trouble with the least important part of what they do. They get in trouble with their images. They get in trouble with their prose, the hallucinations in their prose. But those are all demos. Those aren't really the most important thing that an AI is going to do.
At I.O., at one point, they were talking about everything is about the prompt. And here's a booklet we printed about how to do things to the prompt.
Exactly what you don't want.
And I thought, nobody wants a blinking empty prompt. They want to do something or be suggested based on context, right? And that is, I know that chatbots are really good at the blinking prompt, but to productize this, you need to make it about something like, I think you want to do this.
Apple might be very good at that.
Right, like that.
Compared to Google.
If I were Apple, I'd be leaning into that because if you could make it practical to leverage AI to do things you want to do, that's in the end, that's what people want.
Because there are already those Siri suggestions that and some of them are silly, but for example, it saw in my calendar that my sister's birthday is today. Happy birthday. And it said, do you want to send a message to your sister to wish happy birthday? That already happens. There are times where it knows that my location is different from the event that I have planned in my calendar. And so it says, do you want to send the other people who were invited to this a message saying you're running behind? So
they have a lot of pieces.
Yeah, those are already there. And with the new Journal app, which is constantly paying attention to the different things that you do and
they have everything but the intelligence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe they get the intelligence from somewhere else.
I mean, the other thing they've got an advantage of is they do have their ecosystem. So they do have their fingers in all of this data that they keep private, but that they know about and that their software could work could act on.
They know when you're moving.
But you got to execute it, right? I mean, you got to be able to execute it.
When CarPlay connects, when you're charging your phone, they know which device you're on. They know what devices are nearby.
So that's the pitch is we do know a lot about you. We would like to use it all. We would like you to give us this information, but we promise it's going to stay on your phone in our data centers. It's not going to Google. It's not going to Meta. It's not going to OpenAI. But you have to trust us because for this to work, you have to allow that. But Google's tried this before. Remember, they had the cards on Android, and they had to phase them out because people didn't want it crossed the creepy line. They didn't want. It was too weird that Google already knew all this stuff and then was
and all that.
Yeah, it was like, why do you say I'm on? How do you know I'm at the airport? Get out of my mind. And that really crossed the creepy line. Google actually killed that product. So I think that it has to be done right. But if anybody could do it.
And to Micah's point, some of it is happening now. Like I was at the airport the other day and I brought up the app's search command to open Flighty, my flight tracking app, and it was the top hit. Because it's like, you use this app when you're at the airport. Yep. I know, right? Like it
put the ticket in my wallet at the top.
Yeah, it's so there's some of that there, but like this is it's like Apple has to navigate.
They have to be explicit about it.
Being perceived as being behind an AI by the world and making a product that people actually want to use, right? Which is not necessarily the same thing.
Yeah. You're listening to MacBreak Weekly, a special Wednesday edition because we got the new iPad Pros here, an 11-inch, a 13-inch, and then two guys with nothing at all, Andy Anako and Leo Laporte. Mikah Sargent's here from iOS Today. Of course, we'll have lots. So what happened to Rosemary? She got the accessories, but not the iPad?
I think that orders weren't the same for London or something. I don't know.
Anyway, by next Tuesday,
she should have one.
So definitely watch iOS Today for your iPad coverage. And of course, sixcolors.com is a must. Jason Snell it's only a matter of time before we see his name up on the stage at Infinite Loop or whatever they call it, Apple Park.
Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. It says Jason Snell. Marquez Brownlee's getting all the attention. I hate it. He actually had a good video with the magnets. Did you see the magnet video?
No, I didn't see that one.
I don't know.
How do they work?
How do they work?
He knows somehow.
He knows.
He had some sort of material that shows magnets. And he was running over this. Here, I'll find you the video. We can all watch together. Apple ups its magnet game. Magnets, how do they work? Well, Marquez Brownlee knows. Here's his Twitter. This is cool. So he's got this special. See that green?
Whoa!
That green film. It shows where
it must have
it's some sort of magic magnet, and it shows you where. Look at the magnets. I mean, it's completely useless. He says, "Look, these magnets are slot shaped, and on the new iPad, they're round."
Whoa!
The speakers are different,
It's
though.
like
They're
Etch-a-Sketch
round.
film or
How do the
something.
speakers sound? Do they sound okay?
Yeah, I mean the old speakers sound fine too. I don't think they're any.
No, the
different.
old speakers are great. I don't want them to
think
be
they're
any worse.
different. I don't think they're any different.
Well, they have a
because
different
it's
shape.
thinner
They're
is
round
what you're-
now. Yeah.
yeah.
Look at that.
Wow, the new
I want this
magnets
paper.
are shaped. I know.
I want this thing. Whatever. Yep.
Give me that Etch-a-Sketch film.
Yeah. Anyway,
Oh, because it has two options for.
it's got more magnets, and
yeah.
even the thing has magnets. There's magnets everywhere.
everywhere, all the way down.
Yeah, just don't touch it to your pacemaker.
Amen.
You're watching MacBreak Weekly. More to come in just a little bit. Well, what other? Is it all iPad all the way down? Well, the alarms. Oh, the alarms. Apple admits, there's a problem with the alarms. What about it? It's aware of issues. As users complain alarms are playing too quietly or not going off, they're working on it. They say, we saw it on TikTok. We saw it, and we don't know why. Apple declined to comment on whether they said, apparently, one TikTok user said that the iPhone 15 alarm goes off at the lowest volume and says it's related to the attention aware feature being enabled. Like if you're not paying attention.
I saw that, but then some people said, no, it's not that. I think it is just a bug of some sort, and it's probably fixed now that we've got the new update, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. 17.5 is out. Anything exciting to say about it? Cross-platform tracking detection. EU app downloads. Ooh.
Yeah, if we were in the EU, I'd
From
have something
websites.
exciting to say.
Yeah. Cross-platform tracking detection delivers notifications to users if a compatible Bluetooth tracker they do not own is moving with them. That's new?
It's Google finally working.
Oh, this is the thing that they did with
Universal
Google.
Tracker.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Yeah, that was announced some months ago, and they said we're going to put it off till the summer, and I guess it's out now. And I imagine there's security updates, but they're not. They always kind of keep those under their hats.
Yeah, not anything huge with
Okay.
17.5, unfortunately.
And that's what you just got. So the
Yeah.
iPad did not come with the latest.
It did not. They said, hey, update.
I hate that when that happens.
But it took a few seconds.
Yeah. Apple. So June 10th, you're gonna go, or you get an invite to go down to the circle.
Not yet. I hope so.
The whatever.
Yeah, they haven't
Apple
shipped.
Park.
They haven't
Apple
shipped
Park. I
yet.
don't know why I
The
can't remember
interviews.
that. I want to call it the spaceship.
That works too.
So no invites to that event, but June 10th, we'll cover the keynote. You and I will sit here all alone.
With no one there
Thinking.
beside us.
Jason must be having a good time. What else? Okay, VMware Fusion is now free for personal use.
Is it?
But here's how not to get it. Don't get it. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell were talking about this on Windows Weekly. You have to create a Broadcom account, and they email you, and there's all sorts of stuff for the free version. I guess, look, you want a free version that lets you run Windows on ARM on your Apple Silicon Mac. I use Parallels, but I pay a lot for that. Now you can do it with VMware Fusion, which Broadcom has made free for anyone who wants to download for personal use.
After you hand over your firstborn child?
But first,
and a
tell us a little more about yourself.
Yeah.
Just a little more about yourself.
Wait, can't I'll just give it
You could fake it.
one of those.
You know what? Give it the Apple address, right? Well, then they don't know anything.
Mm-hmm. Although, who knows how much the telemetry stuff they're doing in the background.
As if it weren't awful enough that Apple crushed the living life out of all creativity to make an iPad, the hydraulic press channels decided to do it all over again. So, first of all, Tempest in a teapot, or should Apple have taken some heat for this ad? We were watching it.
It's unusual. It's just unusual for Apple to make even a small misstep like this. I have to admit that it went in and out my radar without even thinking about it when I saw it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in an era in which a lot of artists are very, 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 very concerned about what's going to happen to their art, the idea of crushing a big pile of what seemed to be very, very functional and useful items, maybe that would not have passed like another review process in the decision.
I guess
We watched it and we were a little bit weirded out, but it wasn't.
You would have, if you heard me, I immediately understood where it was going. I quite literally said, right as soon as it came down, I said, oh, they're crushing it into an iPad. It's going to become an iPad. It just made sense to me from the get-go. And I think if you, in the same way that when we look through TikTok and Instagram, you're basically kind of glancing at things. If you only saw that close up of an instrument being destroyed or some paint being squished or something like that, and you didn't quite get a chance to watch the full ad, you might quickly go, what the heck are they doing? And I could understand how that quickly led to some outrage. And then also the cultural implications. I saw an interesting kind of rundown that apparently, particularly in Japanese culture, the instruments or the tools of the artist are as revered in many ways as the artists themselves. And so there were some cultural kind of implications at work there.
Okay.
But overall, I don't know, maybe, and this may sound like elitist or something, but I genuinely wonder, did people not get it and then they went to rage before they had a chance to go, I see what's happening? At the same time, I do want to say I understand the criticism and what you said, Andy, of it does kind of look bad that in this world of waste and et cetera, they are crushing things and breaking things, and that's not great. But I guess I figured out what they were doing quite quickly. Oh yeah, it's going to be everything you can do with an iPad.
Apple apologized.
That's good damage control. I do agree. I mean, I think it is a tempest in a teapot, and I think the internet needs things to be outraged by, and so they picked this. That said, I think it also shows that Apple failed to read the room, because Apple fancies itself friend to all creative people, and does not understand that Apple is now viewed as a big tech company in an era where big tech companies are threatening with AI to destroy the lives and livelihood of creative people. And I think Apple just can't think of itself that way, and was like, no, it's lighthearted, it's Apple, we got a bond. You're gonna get it, right? You're gonna love it. And I think they just misread the room. I think that it was exactly the wrong time for an ad like that, even though I thought the ad was, I also got a pang. I played the piano. When that piano got crushed, I was like, no, not the piano. Right? Like,
so you really did.
I had a moment, but like, I also got what they were trying to do, and it's all metaphorical. Yeah. They're not trying to crush your dreams. They're trying to put all of it in this one little tiny compact thing where you can do all your creative endeavors. But failure to read the room. And I think when we talk about Apple being regulated a lot on this show, I think this is an actual blind spot where Apple really does not think of itself as a tech giant that is standing astride the world and destroying the livelihoods of people by its various policy decisions. It thinks of itself as an upstart who loves everybody and loves the creative professional and is an enabler of goodness in the world. And the problem is you step in it like this, because your self-image is not what other people's image of you is.
So maybe this was a wake-up call.
I mean, if so, I think honestly, given that they are going to have a big AI presentation in June at WWDC, it might have been the perfect time for something minor to go wrong like this.
Shake them up
to put them all on alert, knowing how everybody's on edge about this stuff, and that they need to phrase this. Because I had this with the Google I/O keynote. They started off with a YouTube TikTok DJ guy, and he was tweaking, in Google,
many ways.
but at one point he basically was like, no one wrote this, Google wrote this, and it was off script a little bit. But at the same time, I thought, like, this is what you got to be careful of. You got to be careful of saying, hey, good news, customers, we're going to let you do all the things you currently pay a creative person to do. That's not great.
No, you're right.
Somebody did, and I thought this was really a great thing. They said they should have run it in reverse. Start with a thin iPad and then open up to reveal all of the stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
That would have been better.
Yep.
Clever.
Maybe. I'm trying to find it, but I can't.
It would have at the very least stopped the Insta, judgment.
Right. By the way, LG did it first. Did LG do it better?
They did it at a time
in 2008.
It wasn't as tumultuous.
Things were simpler back then.
I like seeing things get crushed.
That's kind of
Is there
interesting.
something wrong with me?
David Letterman did this in the 90s, right, Andy? You know, crushing things with a hydraulic press, throwing things off a building.
Yeah.
Like destruction.
It just looks cool.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Destruction's fun.
And then what's that song? I can't think of it.
Here is from Rodney O. The new Apple ad would work much better if it were reversed. So it starts with an iPad and everything's back to normal.
I think a lot of
Everybody's
people
happy.
focused on the idea that the last thing is that innocent, happy little emoji being crushed and its eyeballs popping out. Maybe that is
There's a little
particularly could have been reconsidered.
I think they should have had a little warning, you know.
That was my favorite
trigger
thing.
warning.
Gee,
That was my
it's
favorite thing in the
fine.
entire
Was the
thing.
things popping out?
There
Yeah,
is-
'cause it's
it does-
ludicrous.
it is
It's a joke.
It is evocative of that scene with Joe Pesci in Casino, where he's trying to get that person to like talk and find out who like ordered the hit. That's not. You don't want to.
We made it better.
I very rarely take the lighten up approach to things because I try to be very open minded and like I get it, and yeah, they should. I thought the little emoji getting squished was funny.
We can, by the way, and this comes from the Harry McCracken interview. He did a good score, by the way, Harry. And a Fast Company, he interviewed Jaws and John Turnus, the next CEO of Apple, according to Mark Gurman, on why the iPad and Mac both matter. And you know what? Big point. The iPad is the only tablet that doesn't suck. I mean, that's a good point, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Okay, that's okay. Actually, I did want to ask
tablet,
because I saw that Google re-released its tablet.
All Android tablets suck.
And I know that the Amazon tablets, even the ones for
all
kids,
Amazon tablets
are
suck.
Awful. So
maybe
tell
a
me more,
Surface?
Andy.
Is that, Andy? Is that what you're thinking? I mean,
No, I mean, okay. First of all, the Amazon tablets are great because you can give it to a little kid in the back of a car and not
but
care
it still
what happens
sucks.
to it because they're durable.
All right, fine.
And I think it depends on how you define a tablet. As a convertible, I would say no. There are a lot of convertibles that don't suck at all. The Microsoft Surface doesn't suck. There are a lot of Dells that I've used that don't suck. But in terms of something that is designed, I can't think of any other device really other than the iPad that is really designed to be just a tablet, that where the having a keyboard and a pointing device attached to it is the exception and not the expected like daily use case. So yeah, and that means I would say yes, but I wouldn't use that as a way of disparaging the idea of having a desktop grade operating system connected to a touchscreen device or something that can be used exclusively as a touchscreen or stylus operated device. No.
Their point was it occupies a category of one. Jaws says, I hesitate to call it a tablet
I agree with that.
because tablets suck and iPads don't. He's not wrong. He's not completely wrong. All right, maybe there are a few things that are okay.
It is a category where Apple does not have a lot of serious competition.
Yeah. And then people, this happens on Ask the Tech Guys. We're sitting there, somebody says, well, I want to get one of them Samsung tablets. What are you thinking? You and I are both in our heads are going, no,
Don't do it.
no.
Don't do it.
No.
No, I went down a rabbit hole with a bunch of Android-driven e-ink based, like e-readers.
Yeah.
And the e-ink screens are getting better and better.
I love my new Kobo Libra color. Actually,
yeah, I've got that
like
too. They're getting better. They got color. They got faster frame rates. The thing that struck me about all those Android-based ones was basically the apps aren't very good. I mean,
it's only good for reading text.
And they're all designed for phones, right?
And Android is not a good tablet operating system. That's the real.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, all of those apps are on the e-reader that I tried that is shaped like a phone. They were all way better because they're
It's a
made.
phone.
So not only does the
OS.
iPad not suck, unlike tablets, but iPad OS doesn't suck in comparison
true.
to other tablet OSs.
They also said, "Don't worry, we know what we're doing." So,
About
that's their,
what? Just in
that's their
general?
rebuttal. They know what we're doing.
About what? Everything.
Yeah, yeah. They talked about the idea of pro. Turnus pushes back on the notion that the iPad is less than pro. He said that's, first of all, it's not defined by the Mac. There are other pro things. there's a funny perception thing, he says. Maybe it's Mac people with their notion of what professional is. You saw what the Procreate team has done with the Apple Pencil Pro. There is no more professional drawing application in the world than Procreate. I mean, they're the lifeblood of artists. I guess he's got a point there. Depends what you mean by pro. Anyway, good article, good interview.
Good job, Harry.
Good get. Gurman did say that John Turnus is, he had a whole article which I completely ignored about the bench for Apple executives. Who's going to replace, actually, it's probable that Tim Cook would be the first to go. He is close to retirement age.
I don't think he's close to modern retirement age.
Maybe not.
I mean, he's in his early 60s.
Right.
So
how old's our president?
Yeah, I mean,
whoa.
How old are both of the people running for president?
Whoa.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I think the real challenge is if Tim Cook decides he doesn't want to do this job anymore because it's a high pressure job. Then again, he doesn't seem like a layabout to me. He's kind of like a workaholic, and so I mean, he might keep doing it for 5 or 10 years, and so who knows? But
as he said like a few months ago in an interview, that it's more of a asked a little bit about secession. It's more like what I could be hit by a bus tomorrow.
Of course.
So that's the sort of situation,
right? But I think they need to cover. There's an expectation like, oh, who's gonna replace him, and I think everybody thinks Jeff Williams in the near term if he left, but Jeff Williams is only a couple years younger than
that's the problem,
Tim Cook.
You want a younger guy. Yeah.
He's your hit by a turnip truck kind of scenario, but Turnus is the one that comes up as being like, you know, most of the words against John Turnus are things like, oh, he's just another guy in meetings and he doesn't know how to control the meeting, and it's like, well, that's why
you learn.
That's why you learn and grow. And if you identify, I mean, one of Tim's jobs is identifying a potential replacement and then training them up so that they're ready to take the job up when it's necessary. Maybe that's 5 or 10 years from now instead of 2 or 3.
Yeah. And it's significant if that were to be the case, it would be kind of significant that they pick the guy who's head of hardware engineering as opposed to head of software or head of services or head of anything else.
Do you think Apple would change a lot under new management?
I think the jobs until they have a really disastrous episode from a financial standpoint, I think the Jobs playbook that he built when he came back, that he has kind of gotten that culture built, and they have the Apple University to reinforce the corporate culture. I think that is going to stay. I think, though, that if you think about Tim Cook taking over from Steve Jobs, that was an operations guy. And everybody's like, oh no, it's all going to be operations. And certainly there are things Apple does that are very much the operations guy is the CEO now, and they're doing it this way. But also it's the lesson that you've just got to surround yourself with people who can fill in.
Right.
Nobody's going to be Steve Jobs again, right? So if it's Turnus and he comes from engineering, that's great. He's got insight into that, but he's still going to need to surround himself with good operations people and good software people and all those things.
A strong culture in that company,
but it's super,
that
super
transcends whoever's running it.
Right. And the parts about it that we don't like, we talk about here. But the fact is, whenever you built a corporate culture like that, it's built to last, and you take the good with the bad. But like that was what Steve Jobs. I mean, I really believe that Steve Jobs' final product is Apple as a culture. Like he was like, this is how we're going to do it. And to this day, you hear people talking about, it's not a cult of personality about Steve, but he built almost like it's not a cult, it's a culture. It's an Apple culture that is based on his precepts.
And by the way, at the very end of that whole long thing about executives, Gurman kind of just drops that, there'll probably be a new Mac Mini with the M4 and M4 Pro at the end of the year.
He can't help.
Can't help it.
You can't resist.
M4 Pro, M4 Max chips this year as part of the high-end MacBook Pro, low-end MacBook Pro with the M4, and a new Mac Mini with the M4 and M4 Pro. Next year, watch out for the M4 MacBook Air, Mac Studio, Mac Pro. So let's take a little break. Andy's got to get out of the library. Our picks of the week coming up in just a bit. I do want to take a moment to encourage you to join the club. Many of you listen to our shows, maybe even more than one show a week, like what we say, are interested in the information you get here. Can I invite you to join our community? It's very affordable, $7 a month. We want to keep it that way. You get all those shows ad-free. You get a video of everything we do, including Mikah's excellent hands-on Macintosh show, which is only audio in the public, but the video goes to the club. You get access to the community directly through our Club Twit Discord, which is not just about the shows, but it's about everything that we are interested in. I think it's a good value, and it helps us stay on the air, and we do need that help, honestly. twit.tv/club twit. If you're not yet a member, may I invite you to join the fun? We would love to have you. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Andy and Akko, pick of the week.
My pick is, I've been looking at a lot of like habit trackers and not liking many of them, because a lot of them, like I just want to remember to like do this thing as many times a week as I'm supposed to be doing it. Like for just, again, to establish a habit so that I no longer need a habit tracker. And most of the habit trackers I've been trying out are like, they're a new source of stress because they keep annoying you and they keep like saying, oh, well, gee, I don't know, you didn't do it yesterday. You said you're trying to do it like 5 times. You're really going to have to pick it up. But so I found this one that called Not Boring Habits that I really, really like. It's because it's the whole principle of it is not that it's trying to like gamify a habit so much as try to help you build one, saying if you do something 60 days in a row, you're probably going to not need this app anymore. I think they actually say in their webpage that our goal is that you'll stop using this app after a certain amount of time. And it makes it like every time you say, okay, yeah, I did this thing, it makes it to a little like there's a little like piece of artwork that you see every time you kind of update it, and I really, really like it. Before I started looking at tracker apps, I actually started like hand drawing calendars on my phone, because my phone has that like markup feature, so you can actually. So I like the idea of like the first of every month I'm going to hand draw a calendar. Then I'm going to enjoy drawing an X on every day of the week when I actually like maintain this thing that I was supposed to do. And this is very much like that. It's $15 a year, but it really is like a piece of interactive art that kind of helps you to establish a habit that you think is going to be good for you in the long term. And it's one of those really super weird apps that I just like to promote. I just like to encourage.
I love it.
There are way too many apps that are just efficient and have a marketing plan. And well, we don't want to discourage. We don't want to make people think that this is a weird app or this is no. It flies its freak flag proudly, and that's why I love this app.
Downloading it right now.
Yeah, and Not Boring makes a lot of great apps.
It's a great name for a company. Really, what else do they do? This is cool. Habits, vibes, weather, timer, and calculator. All right. Check it out. Thank you, Andy. When are you going to be on GBH next?
Probably next Tuesday, as a matter of fact, before the show. But don't worry, I'm not going to the Boston Public Library. I'm going to be staying.
Just bring a good microphone. That's all.
I'll bring a big.
In fact, I will send you the money to get one of those Shure Motive microphones that are designed to work with the iPad. How about that?
I will take that offer.
Okay, John, let's get on that. Okay. Thank you, Andy. I'll let you go because I know you have to clear out so the next podcaster can go in. Have a good day. Take care. Mr. Mikah Sargent, host of iOS Today, Tech News Weekly, and Ask the Tech Guys, what do you like these days?
I am going to talk about an app that I just downloaded today.
I see you playing with it, and now I want it.
It's called Morpholio Trace, and it was mentioned on the iPad Pro page on Apple's website, and it's an app for architects. But what's cool about it is I could see using this for doing some floor plan kind of stuff.
Yeah, I need to do some floor plan. Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got that that you need to do. Exactly.
Yeah, I got to design a studio for the home.
And so this is...
I'm going to paint everything green.
Ooh.
And then that way it'll look whatever.
It'll all be green screen.
Whatever I want it to look like.
Not that... Oof, that's not a good... Anyway, that's like the worst screen. But this has a lot of Apple Pencil features. So it works with Hover, for example. It is probably going to work very quickly with the squeeze that's there as well, and the barrel roll. You've got all of the standard features that you would need as an architect or interior or exterior designer. And it's available for free to download with kind of the base sketch functions. To add templates and things like that, you'll need the Pro subscription. But I think for people who are pros, who want to make use of those features, they are able to for, it's only $9.99 a year for the Plus version and $22 a year for the Pro version. That's actually surprising to me because I thought it was going to be a lot more than that. That's a really good price. $10 a year, and you gain access to a lot of the stencils.
A lot less than these than many of the other
Pro apps, and so you can do things like add in, trees and be able to sketch out different areas. So a pretty cool app, and that's called again Morpholio Trace.
What a silly name.
Indeed, it is a silly name. Morpholio.
Cornholio Trace.
That's what it reminds me of.
It's out there right now, just for you. It uses the Apple Pencil. Jason Snell, pick of the week, sir.
I've been talking about it today, and I according to mbwpicks.com, the official resource for all past MacBreak Weekly picks, it has been 6 long years since this was a pick.
Well, let's do it.
I'm going to re-pick it. It is Ferrite Recording Studio. I mentioned it. I use this to edit podcasts on the iPad with the Apple Pencil, although you can also use your hands. You can use the keyboard and the trackpad, whatever you like, but it is way cheaper than Logic. It's much more functional than GarageBand.
Easier to use.
It's easier to use than Logic. Logic is actually bad for podcasts on iOS.
Yeah.
This is an iPad and iPhone only product.
How would you do 8 microphones? That's interesting.
You can either do it as inputs, or you can just you can plug in a.
You'd have to have some hardware.
You plug in some hardware, and then you can actually do multi-track record as well.
Wow, that's really cool.
It's really capable. It'll export MP3s with chapters.
It says Jason Snell, editor-in-chief, 6 Colors.
I'm one of the.
Wow.
I am one of the big fans of this. It is a really, if you are editing audio for especially spoken word podcasts, if you're like working in radio or something, like I know that the iPhone version gets used a lot by radio reporters who very quickly capture audio and then just use their phone to cut it up and send it back to the studio. And my favorite use of the Apple Pencil is to use this. It is such a deal. Basically, I think it's the best tool for podcast editing value-wise that's out there, because I don't know what the current in-app purchase price is, but I don't know, $20, $30. It's not a lot, and Logic costs a lot.
Yeah.
And it's better than
Logic's
GarageBand.
a subscription. That's the real problem.
So I highly recommend it, and I will just say, not to give too much away, but when I mentioned that there was an app that I was using that already had a beta that supports the squeeze. It was this. I'm not supposed to admit that, but anyway,
we don't know.
That it's a really good.
Those guys at Wuji Juice are good.
It's a really good developer who really cares about keeping the platform up to date.
$30 to buy it.
$30.
$15 to upgrade if you had version 2.
And it is super worth it. So if you're somebody who has thought about, editing audio on the iPad or the iPhone, I could not recommend this thing more. It's
nice.
Really good. Like, it's better than doing it on the Mac as far as I'm concerned.
I know a friend of the show, Stephen Robles, also uses it regularly.
The bearded tutor.
The bearded tutor. Yes.
The bearded tutor likes it.
There's something about the tactile, as somebody who edited podcasts for a long time, just using Logic on the Mac, something about like using your own hands to actually edit the audio. I think I do a better job of editing on iPad with Ferrite and the pencil.
As Woody Allen once said, there's nothing wrong with using your own hands.
Exactly right.
Somebody who you love.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason Snell.
I love the yes and of that.
Reference acknowledged.
6colors.com. By the way, that was Ferrite from Wuji Juice. WOOJI. Wuji Juice. Look forward to more stuff about the new technologies. Of course, your review is already up at 6colors.com on the iPad Pro.
Yeah. Check it out.
You're going to do a separate review on the keyboard because that's...
my keyboard review is basically in the iPad review.
Okay, good. All right.
I've got an iPad Air. I guess I need to review that.
You got the Air.
It's not that exciting.
That poor Air.
Yeah,
everybody just ignores it. It's like it never even came out.
Yeah, it's kind of made of recycled technologies, though. So
and recycled aluminum.
As long as it's not made of people. Mr. Mikah Sargent, he's got his new iPad Pro 11-inch.
It's so neat.
It is really cute. Now I'm really thinking I should have gotten a small one.
Maybe I should put a little googly eyes
wait a minute,
on it.
That's weird. It's exactly the size of your head.
Yeah, it's like it was meant to be.
Oh, but see, let me see. I think it's too small for my head.
No, it's head size. That'll be great.
That's
what Apple wants people to say. Is it's iPad 11, size of your head.
Size of your. See, this is so much bigger than the size of my head.
Yeah,
that's not good.
You should put your face on it.
Big one.
Just hold it up in front of your face.
I want googly eye. I'm going to put googly eyes on my big one.
I think it'd be cute.
You should have a little googly eyes on it. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks especially to our Club Twit members who make this show possible. Thank you for your contributions. We really appreciate it. You can watch us do it live. Normally, weird. This is a Wednesday edition of MacBreak Weekly, but for good reason. We'll be back in our Tuesday slot, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. You can watch all the shows we do live. You can watch them live on YouTube. We've moved it all to YouTube, youtube.com/twit/live. Of course, if you're a Club Twit member, we have a private little room for you behind the velvet rope there that you can all watch. You can even see after and before the show if you're in the club. On-demand versions of the show available on our website, twit.tv/mbw. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to the video. You can go there and watch. You can also use it to clip if you want to share something, a little moment you thought was important. Please do. We love it when you do that. Helps us promote the show. After the show is produced, of course, the easiest way to get it is to just let it download automatically in your favorite podcast player. Subscribe now, and you'll get the next one. Actually, if you subscribe now, you'll get it. Well, it depends when you're listening. If you subscribe now, you'll get the next one automatically the minute it's available. Thanks, everybody. Get back to work, though, because break time is over. Bye-bye.